Can your functional medicine practice get 41 leads in just under 1 week? Well, what I want to do in this video is I want to share with you the exact strategy, the exact method that I'm using to grow and to scale functional, holistic, and regenerative medicine practices all over the country. Now, before I get into the nuts and the bolts of my system, of my process, right, which is going to be, it's going to be a long presentation, right? I'm going to go through every single step from how to pick your niche, right? Functional medicine practitioners, you guys serve a lot of different people with different illnesses, different diseases, different disorders, right? So I'm going to go from, okay, how to focus on the right one, how to know you're focusing on the right one, to how to bring in leads on a consistent basis. But before I get into how exactly to do that, let me just say, as an industry, we are in a unique time, right? And I'm speaking on behalf of regenerative medicine, of functional medicine. If you read Discover Magazine or Scientific America or New Scientist, if you subscribe to the magazines that I subscribe to, you know that consumer control is where things are going, right? You know, you hear stuff on CNN or Fox or MSNBC, whatever you watch about, you know, privacy, right? You know, you have all this stuff going on. But the reason why privacy is such a big issue, if you ask me, is because consumers are in control, right? Consumers no longer want to go to the conventional doctor and get prescribed, a drug, right? They no longer want to be told that they're crazy because the doctor isn't performing the right tests to get to the root cause. People are starting to catch on, right? It's only so long. It's only so long. It's only a matter of time before you can fool people before they catch on. And I think that time is coming. Right now, if you're a functional medicine practitioner watching this, you probably still have that objection of, you know, my insurance doesn't cover it, or, you know, that might be too expensive. Right. So you still might be dealing with that, but the time is coming where that's going to be easier. So what I want to do for the serious functional medicine practitioner, for the serious regenerative medicine practitioner, for the serious holistic medicine practitioner, what I want to do is I want to give you the keys to the kingdom. Right. So a little bit about me. I've spent over $1 million on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram ads. Right. I worked in industries such as, marketing for agencies, marketing for medical spas, marketing for retail companies, brick and mortar. I've done everything, but I'm putting all my chips in the table right now on functional medicine. Right. I told my team, hey, listen, we're niching down and we're just going to focus on this because this is the future. So what I want to do for the serious entrepreneur, the serious business owner on this call is literally give you a step-by-step blueprint on how you can make sure your practice is ahead of what's to come, right? People are searching you out. People are looking for an alternative doctor who's actually going to listen to them. Now, before medical doctors quit and join in the competition, before everybody who's a chiropractor gets certified, before that stuff happens, what I want to do is I want to help you get ahead so you can get the influx of patients as they start becoming more aware, right? So diving in now, right? So what I'm going over is a case study of how I drove one of my clients 41 peripheral neuropathy leads in 1 week, just under 1 week. I remember when we first talked about this campaign, I couldn't even pronounce peripheral. Right? Not only did I not know what neuropathy was, I could not even pronounce it. I was like neuropathy, right? I was like, so I had to go from literally not understanding the word, definitely not understanding the market, not understanding the pain points, to driving 41 leads in under 1 week with minimal ad spend. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, right? And if you're somebody watching this right now, what I will say, right, and I'm going to open up a loop right now, meaning I'm going to tease you with some curiosity. I think the reason I didn't know anything is why I succeeded. Let me say that again. The reason I succeeded, the reason I was able to drive so much leads for this client is because I knew nothing, right? So some of the problems that I see, right, I just finished speaking about how functional medicine is the future. that consumer control of their health is the future, that consumers ordering tests, whether it's genetic, whether it's the microbiome, whether it's blood chemistry, that is the future. People want to be able to be in control of everything, from social media to their body, to their relationships, to their happiness. They want to be in control, right? Health is the next one up. Now, although I preface my comments by saying that, let me be quite frank. Let me be real. A lot of functional medicine practitioners are not doing it wrong, right? So some of the problems I see in the industry, number one, limited on referrals, right? So a couple of my clients right now who are in the functional medicine practice, before they took me on, are limited on the patients they get into their functional medicine program, right? So if you're a functional medicine practitioner, you might have, a $3,000 program, right? A 3K program that includes genetic testing or blood testing or, GI gut testing. And then you put them on a little, elimination diet, and then you prepare their gut, and then you wipe out the bacteria, the parasites, the yeast. And then, so you might have a yearly annual program that costs a couple $1,000s. Or at the minimum have tests. And really what I'm seeing in the industry, going to, events, going to conferences, having clients myself, is they're reliant on the patients that they're getting from their main business, right? So a lot of people become functional medicine practitioners. Number one, they're frustrated with the standard of care, right? They're frustrated with the standard of care. Every functional medicine practitioner, regenerative medicine practitioner I spoke to were frustrated with the standard of care, and that's what motivated them. But let's not make a mistake about it. If the money was not right, you would not be in this field. That goes to anybody, right? I was reading a book by Mother Teresa, right? Everybody has two sides to motivation. So you have your altruistic side, right? Your altruistic side where you're completely selfless. You care about the other person and other people and giving back to society. But make no mistake about it, we have a selfish side too. Okay, so what I'm seeing a lot in the industry is that a lot of functional medicine practitioners are relying on the patients that's coming from the traditional practice, right? So if they're a functional medicine practitioner, they also might be a chiropractor for the most part of the week. Now, the problem with that is they can't fully get away from the insurance cycle, right? Insurance, you call insurance, you have to sometimes maybe even have a full-time secretary, somebody you're paying $50,000, $60,000 to a year just so they can call insurance and hopefully give you a little bit more than they're paying you. Right? I mean, that's the reality for a lot of people. A lot of people become functional medicine practitioners, get certified, go through the courses, learn AK, learn all these different things so they can get away from the insurance cycle. But they can't really do it because the only clients, the only patients that they have are from the insurance cycle. Right? So that's the number one problem. Number two problem I see is marketing knowledge, right? So what I'm seeing from functional medicine practitioners is that it's hard to learn every single thing in the body, right? From biology to molecular biology to genetics to all of that stuff. And the reason why I say that is because some websites I come across, literally, it's as if I'm renting out an Airbnb. It's literally like just a bunch of words, right? Like it's acne, hormonal issues, gut, like, who do we help? Acne, it doesn't speak to anybody, right? And the third issue I see is the perpetual cycle of not focusing down, right? So here's the reality for most functional medicine practitioners. You're relying on the patients from your old practice, right? Because your website doesn't speak to anybody. So the only patients you're getting from your main practice. And because you're so desperate or so eager to get people into your annual programs, you just take on anybody. So you never really focus down on one illness. You never really focus down on one disorder, right? Because you're taking everybody. So you're scared to make a commitment because you're like, hey man, anybody that sees the value in what I'm doing, I'll take them. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you can't get caught up in the perpetual cycle of, hey man, I'm only getting 1-2 new patients a month. I can't afford to niche down. Well, guess what? If you don't, you're going to stay in that 2 a month. right? And that's what, if you're like normal, most functional practice, that's $6,000 a month. That barely can't cover your overhead, right? So that's the same thing my client was going through, right? Same exact thing my client was going through, right? Expert, diplomat, AK diplomat, certified in everything you can name. I can't even recall everything he's certified. I mean, the guy has literally an alphabet next to his name, right? But the reality is, if you're knowledgeable and you can't get people to you, right? It's like the old saying, if a tree falls in the middle of the forest and nobody was there, did anybody hear it? The answer is, who cares? If you're the best practitioner in your area, in the country, but nobody knows, who cares? Who cares? Right? So let's move on to the next slide here. Now, as a result of these problems, right, as a result of everything I just shared with you about relying on old, patients from the insurance cycle, because that's the only one coming to your doors. As a result of being scared to niche down and having these generalized websites, what happens is nobody really feels connected to you. Nobody really feels an emotional connection with you, right? And a lot of, this might be controversial, but think about it, right? Think about it. Think about, if you're a man, your wife, or if you're a woman, think about your husband. Think about the times you're going through issues, right? It's usually the person who has experienced what you experienced that you seek comfort in. It's usually somebody that you feel like can relate to you, that you seek comfort in. Now, imagine you had imagine you had IBS, right? You had IBS, one of the most chronic diseases. Well, I can't technically say disease, or one of the most chronic disorders in America. Well, if the person you're speaking to doesn't really have IBS, or isn't really articulating themselves in a way where you feel like they have IBS, are you going to relate to them? Are you going to listen to them? Are you going to buy from them? So imagine you had IBS. Imagine you had IBS, and you go to a website that says, hey, who do we help? Well, IBS, hormonal issues, acne, joint pain. Well, I don't really know if they solve, I don't really know if they help IBS, the IBS I have, right? And that's what is going on a lot in this industry, is that, you guys are so smart, so smart, and can sell and are so selfless, and you can help so many people, but nobody's giving you the time of day because they don't believe it, right? The second thing that I see a lot in the industry is that most of the ads, right? So a select few of you guys are running ads out there. Most I see on Google. Well, the problem with that is that most of the ads that I see, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, whether not so much YouTube. YouTube is something that is I won't get into YouTube on this presentation, but YouTube is a sleeper. But for the most ads I see is on Facebook, on Google ads, and they're geared toward the product aware prospect. Now, I'm going to get a lot into that in the presentation, but there's a few things wrong with the product aware prospect, right? When somebody is product aware, meaning that they know, right? So for example, I seen an ad while I was doing this campaign. And, I was going through some competitors, and some of the doctors that I was researching that, to compete against, that were kind of offering the same stuff, were saying things like, GI map, 40% discount, right? So GI map is a gastrointestinal test. And they're saying GI map 40% off. Now, for that to be effective, somebody would have to know what the GI map is. Somebody would have to have done research. And the thing with the product aware prospect is that that's not really who you want to advertise to, right? You rarely, if ever, want to advertise to somebody who's in a logical state of mind, right? Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be a time where you don't want to run discounts, but if all you're doing is literally naming the product and naming a discount, you're not actually marketing, you're selling. You're selling, right? That's what I want to get in your head right now. If all of the ads you're doing, whether it's Google ads, whether it's Facebook, if your ads go something like, hey, stool test, 40% off. Come into our office, get a GI map, call us 347, right? If that's what your ads are looking like, you're not marketing, you are selling. You're not actually talking to a market. You're not talking to a person. You're selling your product, right? So keep that in mind. We're going to dig into that a little bit later. And last but not least, without intimate knowledge of one specific industry, right, the product aware pool gets tapped out. There's only so many people, as you can imagine, that walk into your office who know what a GI map is, who know what a blood chemistry test is, who know what genetic test is, who knows about mutations and all that jazz, or about molecular biology and DNA sequencing. There's only so many patients that know about that, right? So if your ads are speaking to that, and there's only a small amount of people who feel that way, well, your audience is going to get tapped out, which means to you that you're going to run out of people to show to, which means your ad costs are going to go up. You're not going to get as much sales, and you're going to be very frustrated. It's going to be unsustainable to do that, right? And if you're like my client right now, if you're like most of my clients right now in this industry, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because every practice, every business, that new patients, new revenue is the lifeblood of every practice. You know that. However, you might not know how to make advertising work, so you're not bleeding out the bottom, right? Because some functional medicine practitioners that I speak to, you might get an agency, and that might be $5,000 a month. Then you might have to give that agency another $1,000 on top of that for ads, right? That might not have worked. So then you take over the reins, you do it, and it's just not as effective, right? And you're like, oh man, I want to get out this insurance cycle, but I don't know how to effectively create customers on demand to make it sustainable. Well, that's exactly what I want to do in this presentation. So there's some things to be aware of, right? So there's some things to be aware of. And I am in the middle of creating my course, right? So, I got fired, my story is that I worked with the best marketer, the best online marketer in the game, Ty Lopez, right? So Ty Lopez, I worked with him for 2 years out in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, right? I lived in Beverly Hills for 2 years. I worked with him, spent over millions of dollars on Facebook and YouTube, Instagram ads. And during my time there, my mom passed away, right? My mom passed away. And when you have somebody close to you like that passed away, it puts a lot of things in perspective. I remember I was going through mild depression a little bit. My girlfriend, we were together for like 3 years. We kind of broke up. I was a little bit sad. And I remember just, my mom passing away, that kind of just snapped me out of it, right? Snapped me out of it. Like this, time is short. So what I decided to do was I decided to move back home, right? I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to be with my dad. I wanted to be with my brother. I wanted to be closer to my sister. I wanted to be close and in proximity of my family, because for the first time I realized, okay, we're mortal, right? We're mortal. And I got to make more out of my life. I remember, working with Ty, spending, doing all these ad stuff. I was having too much fun, right? I was hanging out with celebrities, like Akon and Fetty Wap and, just a bunch of just celebrities. And it was cool riding in helicopters, going to Norway and stuff like that. But when my mom died, I was like, okay, I got to do something that is giving back to society. I got to make a stamp. I got to make my claim in this world. And when I came back, I was faced with probably the same problem that a lot of you watching this presentation have, right? I didn't know who. I spent 2 years working with the best in the game. I spent over millions of dollars. I spent like $3-4 million on ads. Who do I help? Like, who do I serve? Right? Do I serve medical spas? Do I serve local dentists? Do I serve this person? And I remember I used to always think to myself, I'm so smart, right? I went to University of Oregon. I was a Dean's List student. Not to say that makes you smart, but I was like, I want a challenge. Right? I was like, I want a challenge. I want to be able to market different companies, different industries, and prove how smart I am. I used to always, you asked me 2 years ago, I used to say niching down was stupid. I used to literally say that. I'm like, hey, I'm going to get bored if I niche down. So what I decided to do is I decided to work with a marketing agency because I felt like, okay, I learned all this stuff. I really don't know how to run a company yet. I don't know how to train. I don't know how to operate yet. So let me go ahead and go with an agency. It's going to give me an opportunity to work with a lot of different businesses without taking on that risk. So I went ahead and did that. And I quickly learned that I know how to operate. I know how to manage. I know how to run a business. And it really put me and the CEO in conflict. Because I came into his business and I was thriving, whether it was the campaigns we were running, whether it was the talent we were recruiting, whether it was the training I was doing. It got to a point where it was like, okay, I think we should do this. He'd say something and I basically call him stupid, right? I basically call him stupid and he fired me, after a while, right? He fired me. So I remember, that's it, right? Like all my income gone. Right? All my income was gone. I had no clients, no nothing. So what I did was I just went online and I just started sending people videos. I used to say, hey, this is what's wrong with your website and I can fix it. And next thing you know, I was making triple what I was making at the agency within like 60 days. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because one of the clients I came across first was this client I'm speaking of, which is a functional medicine practitioner. And the work that he's doing is amazing. Absolutely amazing, right? I mean, these are, patients who have gone around the world, around their city, around their area, going from doctor to doctor, not getting any results, only to go to a functional medicine practitioner and get the result. And he has like 5, 6, 7 case studies of like these crazy situations that he just fixed. And then I got another functional medicine practitioner. It's the same thing, right? He had all these patients who suffer with IBS and then he fixed it. And I was like, wow, this is an amazing industry, right? And I was like, oh man, I just want to focus. And I got another one. Now, I'm saying all this to say, I come from a heavily marketing background, a sales background. I used to, be in a call center selling what I used to sell, cash advances, right? So I come from a sales background, I come from a marketing background, working in LA. And for the first time in my life, I feel like that I'm giving back to society, helping functional medicine practitioners get in front of patients who otherwise would have been suffering. But there's a major issue, right? There's a major issue that I'm seeing with doctors. And it's that most of the campaigns that are being written, most of the campaigns that are being done under the presumption that people care about their health. And it pains me to say that, but the reality is you have to use marketing, you have to use persuasion to get people to care about to care about their health. You have to. Just putting out a great offer or a great discount is not going to do it. And that is the biggest realization I've had so far working with functional medicine practitioners is that most of the advertising campaigns are being built for this section right here. Now, we're going to go into that a little bit. But what's the problem with that, right? So most of the prospects who are aware, and I went over this a little bit earlier. Most of the prospects who are product aware, meaning they're aware of functional medicine practitioners, meaning they're aware of what you offer. For the most part, they're happy doing business with other competitors, right? For the most part, people who are aware of functional medicine practitioners and their package are already happy, which means they're no longer in the market. And for the people who aren't happy, whether they tried a functional medicine practitioner before and didn't, get the result, or whether they went on the consult and weren't sold, well, guess what? Those people are skeptical, right? Those people are skeptical. So if you meet them at that point of skepticism, they're probably not going to buy from you. So what we need to do, and I'm going to go over this now, is we actually need to create campaigns around the problem. We need to get them back thinking about their problem. We need to get them back thinking about their desire. We need to get them back thinking about a normal life. We need to get them and sell them on emotions. Okay? So for the remainder of this case study, what we're going to do is I'm going to go over step by step exactly what we do. Okay, exactly what we do, exactly what you should do, and how you should go about doing that. To not only create campaigns that bring you leads and bring you patients on an on-demand basis, but what I'm going to show you is how to create campaign after campaign, right? I mean, what sense does it have in one campaign, right? What sense has one campaign? You can run an ad and it'll work for a week or 2 weeks, but nothing lasts forever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to come up with angle after angle after angle, so you can keep having a steady flow of patients coming through your door, right? So let's get into it, right? So let's take a step back and find out what business we're really in, right? So the process I use is called the customer-centric approach, right? It's called the customer-centric approach. And the reason why it's called the customer-centric approach is because most businesses go wide instead of going deep. You know, I just finished reading he's probably not the best person to speak about right now, but I just finished reading the biography of Jeff Bezos, and what he used to say to his employees is, don't speak to me about a problem unless you tell me how it's going to affect the customer. Tell me how it's going to affect the customer. Tell me what the customer is going through, and then you can talk to me. He used to say that, to his Amazon employees, right? And the problem with going wide, right? The problem with businesses going wide, and when I say going wide, I mean the problem if you're a functional medicine practitioner and you're focused on acne and you're focusing on hormonal issues and you're focusing on gut issues and you're focusing on mental, right? Mental health. The problem is you're going so wide in the sense that you're talking about a lot of different topics that you're going to have no option but to sell your product, because you can't go deep into the emotions that they're feeling. Let me say that again. If you're focusing on a bunch of different industries, you're going to have no choice but to sell them your product, because you can't go deep into the emotions that they're feeling. Now that may or may not have hit home, but I'm going to make sure by the end of this presentation it does, right? So step number one. This is a case study, but I want you to take out a pen and I want you to take out a pencil. I want you to go step by step through this case study. By the end of this case study, you're going to have a roadmap on exactly what your business should be doing, right? So I don't want you just to watch this, and I don't want you just to consume it and not do anything, right? Because if you're going to do that, fine. If you want to watch this while you're on the treadmill, fine. Give it to your marketing manager. Give it to your marketing person and have them do it. This is a actionable presentation, okay? So step number one, the first thing you need to do before I get into the customer-centric approach, before I get into the customer-centric process, the first thing you need to do is you need to pick right now for the rest of this presentation what niche you're going to serve. Okay, you need to pick what niche you're going to serve. So if it's if it's neuro issues, if it's hormonal issues, if it's autoimmunity issues, I need you to pick one illness, one disease, one disorder, and focus on that. Right? If I were to pull up Amazon right now, right? If I pull up Amazon right now, what I'll see is this, right? And this is what I want you guys to notice, right? We're going to pull up Amazon right now. What you're going to see is that each disease or each illness has so much reviews, right? So for example, let's just type in thyroid, right? Let's just type in thyroid in books. And what you're going to see is a bunch of books come up that have a bunch of 5-star reviews, right? Right. This one has like 2,100, and the reason why it's selling and is getting a lot of reviews is because people who have a thyroid care about thyroids. People who have thyroids don't care about your acne program. They don't care about your gut program. They don't care about your mental health program. They care about thyroid. Now, here's the thing. If you buy this book, and I haven't bought the book, I haven't read it, but let's just hypothetically say, if you buy that book, she might actually say the same thing about the gut and brain connection. She might bring up the microbiome. But the fact that she positioned it as a thyroid book is the reason why this is selling, because if you have a specific disease, you don't care about anything else but that disease. Period. So let's do it again, right? Let's do it again. Let's do it for the same thing. Let's do it for neuropathy, right? This is the same thing. This is what I had to do. I bought every single book on this thing, right? So let's go through it, right? 96, right? So this is what you need to realize, right? Let's do one last one. Let's do one last one. IBS. This is the first realization that you need to have, is that people don't care about what you have to say unless you speak to them about their illness, period. Okay? So don't get FOMO. Don't get fear of missing out. Don't get ADD. Don't be like, oh man, if I niche down right now, I'm gonna miss out on so much opportunity. No, you're not. No, you're not. I'm gonna convince you by the end of this presentation that no, you're not. Right? I'm gonna convince you that if you don't do this, your practice is at danger. For the functional medicine practitioner, that does. Right? This industry is booming. It's about to blow up. There's gonna be room for people who do IBS only, or not necessarily only, but IBS specialized. There's gonna be room for people who do thyroid specialized. There's gonna be room for people who do neuropathy specialized, or Alzheimer's specialized, right, with stem cells. So or knee pain with stem cells. So there's gonna be so much opportunity for the functional medicine industry that if you crave out your niche, that you're gonna have a tremendous success. And if you're business savvy, what you'll do is you'll take the profits, you'll take the earnings, and then you'll invest that into a campaign, right? Because if you're a hustler, if you're a go-getter like I am, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this, you're gonna pick one industry, you're gonna make it a success. 2 months from now, you're gonna come back to this video, you're gonna pick a new industry, and you're gonna make that a success, right? And you're gonna hire a marketing manager to manage each illness, and then you're gonna scale your practice, right? So I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. So make sure you have your notes out, right? So my criteria to focus down, because for everybody's going to be different. I'm not going to just say, hey, pick IBS or pick, thyroid or pick autoimmunity or pick, I'm not going to just say that, because number one, if you don't like it, don't do it. That's like the prerequisite to anything in life. If you don't like it, don't do it. If you're not passionate about a specific illness, stay away from that. Now, if you're passionate about many, this is how you should break it down. Number one, how much testimonials do you have for the illness, right? So if you treat a whole bunch of different stuff, what illness, what disorder, what disease has the most testimonials? That should probably give you a clue. Number two, how many patients of that disease did you serve? So if you don't have testimonials for a specific illness or a specific disease or a specific disorder, but you have a bunch of patients that you've served in that area, and you can get that should give you a clue, right? Because nobody, trust me, people are skeptical about doctors, but they're not skeptical about other people who felt the same thing that they felt, right? So if you can have patients speak about the pain points as opposed to you, that's going to be a huge selling point. Number three, double check to see if the niche that you're serving has best-selling books on Amazon. Right, so let's just say hypothetically you have 50 testimonials for IBS and you have 50 testimonials for neuropathy. Do a quick Amazon search, see which one has more best-selling books. Go with that, if it's equal, right? If it's not equal, if you just have a bunch of testimonials in one area, even though it doesn't have the most best-selling books, go with the testimonials first. Social proof is important. Number four, which of the diseases have the most search volume in Google Trends? Right, so here is a sneak tip for you. I'm literally, I've spent probably $100,000 in marketing courses and masterminds and all this stuff. I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom for free. So, this is what other people have you pay for. So what you're going to do is you're going to do Google Trends, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to click this, and if it's, again, if it's a tie, only if it's a tie. This criteria is descending, meaning that the number one is more important than number two. Okay, so let's do thyroid, right? It's going to show you the search volume. Now let's go ahead and do, what's a good one? right? What's a good one? Let's just do thyroid versus neuropathy, right? Let's just say you were stuck between those two. Okay, well, there's a bigger market for thyroid, right? There's a bigger market for people searching for thyroid than neuropathy, right? So if all things are tied, you know more people are searching for this. So it's probably going to be easier to get in front of them, right? Not only that, if you have your legal stuff squared away, you can target specific state, right? You can target specific state, and you can see what people are searching for, right? Thyroid recall, right? Aisha Curry, wow. This is Steph Curry's wife, right? But for the most part, if things are tied, this is how you should choose between the two. Last thing, which one is easier to get in front of, right? How many YouTube videos, right? If you search neuropathy on YouTube and there's nothing to get in front of them, well, you know, if you have a second place winner, you should probably do that, right? Because you want to get in front of, like, where are these people congregating online, right? Are there conferences about this disease? Are there conferences about this illness? Are there, you know, books about it? Are there celebrities about it? Or are there like spokesperson about this thing, right? Which one is just a little bit more kind of not necessarily mainstream, but is it hard to find people talking about it online? If it is, you should probably stay away from it, right? Cool. So fill this out right now. What I want you to do is I want you to pause this video. I want you to fill out number 1. How many testimonials do you have? What illness, disorder, disease do you serve that has the most testimonials? That's question number 1. Question number 2, what disorder, illness, disease can you get the most testimonials for? Number 3, which illness, disease, disorder do you serve? If it's tied, right? If you're considering 2, which one has more best-selling books? And also, which one has more search volume on Google Trends? And just to double check your work, are there YouTube videos about them? Right, so fill that out right now. And I want you, before you resume the video, I want you to have a niche. I want you to have a red ocean, right? So if you read the book Red Ocean, Blue Ocean, you know you should be looking for blue oceans, right? So for example, IBS is that's not a blue ocean. IBS is a red ocean, as you can see on Amazon. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick a illness, a disorder, a disease, and I'm going to teach you how to find the blue ocean within that disease, that illness, that disorder, right? If you pick 3 diseases, you're not going to have enough bandwidth to find that blue ocean, right? Again, back to World War II, Hitler, right? Again, disgusting human, right? Disgusting, evil, all that. However, what led to his demise? The fact that he attacked Russia. He should have never did that, right? He should have never attacked Russia, because now he has to fight a war on 3 fronts. He has to worry about America coming from Normandy. He has to worry about Patton coming from Italy. And now he has to worry about Stalin. It's too much. It's too much. Focus on one. All right, so let's move on. Cool. So now let's get into a little bit of the system here, right? So what I'm going to walk you through is the consumer centric approach, right? So the process is as follows, right? And this is a little bit of quote. There's a little quote from me. What I'm going to teach you is how to discover your prospects' needs, understand their desires, and be able to create a message that inspires them to take action. Okay? It's about inspiring. It's about instilling hope into your prospect. So that's exactly what I'm going to teach you. So step 1 of the process is prospect research. Prospect research. Not industry research, not looking at news articles, not reading magazines. We're going to search the prospect. We're going to know exactly what makes them tick. Okay? I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Number 2, organizing the data in a way that's usable. Okay, so if you're a functional medicine practitioner, you probably order a lot of tests. You know that data is only as good as your ability to use it. Okay, so if you never did a genetic test before and somebody gave you a genetic test, well, they wasted their money, right? Because you can't tell them how to proceed from that. So after I teach you how to do prospect research, I'm going to teach you how to organize the data so you can actually use it. I'm going to teach you how to then look at the competitors so you know what not to do. And then once you know what not to do, I'm going to teach you how to position your product, how to research your product so you can create a message that stands out. And then finally, I'm going to teach you how to write the ads and then how to put them on Facebook. Okay. So let's dive into it. Step number 1, prospect research. Okay. So step number 1, conducting prospect research is broken up into 3 different steps, right? So just so we can follow along here, I'm going to call these phases. And each different phase, right, which is this damn hexagon or whatever, is going to be broken up into steps, right? So this conducting prospect research phase is broken up into 3 different steps. Number 1, surveying. 2, phone interviewing. 3, eavesdropping. Okay? So all credit to my man, Ryan Levesque, right? So I am personally certified as an X method. I don't even know what he calls it. I just gave him $20,000 and, call me whatever you want to call me. But he's an expert in running survey funnels. And I had a chance to work with him, spend some time with him, be in this mastermind, kind of pick his brain. And this is really where my copy got taken to another level, right? When I was working with Ty, one of the greatest copywriters I've ever met, probably the greatest copywriter I've ever met. However, he never really sat me down and taught me copy, right? He used to critique it. He used to change it, but I was really his ad man, right? He'd give me copy and I'd run it on Facebook. I'd run it on YouTube, but I didn't really know necessarily how to write or come up with great ideas. Ryan Levesque changed all that for me because what he told me is like, Andrew, listen, coming up with great ideas isn't about you. Right? It's not about you. And I used to just think, hey, man, for me to be the best copywriter, I just got to be creative. I got to come up with these ideas. I used to sit, brainstorm, and stress myself out. But what he used to say, listen, just listen. Have a beginner's mind. Listen, and the ideas will come, right? So the reason why we survey are 3-fold. Number 1, to understand what the biggest problem your customer, your patient is struggling with, right? In order to be creative, we have to be creative about something that they care about, right? You can be the most creative person in the world, but if your business model, right, it's something Ty used to always say to me, if your business model is underwater basket weaving, it doesn't matter how creative you are. Nobody's going to buy that, right? Number 2, the second reason why we survey is to understand what they've tried before and the failures that they've experienced, right? Once we know their biggest problem, what they've tried, and how that, and why they failed and how that failure felt like, now what we can start doing is we can start talking to them as that friend who went through the same thing that they went through, right? Some sneaky stuff. Number 3, to understand, the reason why we survey, to understand what benefits they're hoping to get out of our solution, right? So this is something I want to drill home, right? I just finished reading one of the best copywriting books of all time. It's called Breakthrough Advertising. It's about $400 on Amazon if you want to go get it. But one of the things he said to me, said to the book, basically said to me as I read it, was markets' desires don't change, right? So for the most part, people been wanting to lose weight since the Neolithic era, right? So if you read a bunch of evolution like I do, people have been wanting to lose weight as long as, well, let me not say that because, you might say, well, diabetes didn't really start until like the Western society. You might be right. But what I'm trying to say is that women cared about their looks and anti-aging, right? Men cared about testosterone. Nobody necessarily wanted to be unattractive. That's what I'm saying. That those desires has been there since the day of dawn, right? So they've never really changed. Just the way people express them change, right? So for example, for number 3, we know somebody with neuropathy doesn't want to feel pain tingling in their damn toes, right? But what changes is the nuances in how they express that. So they might say stuff like, hey, when I buy a supplement, I want to make sure that I don't have to wear gloves in order to stop it, right? And the reason why they have that benefit is because they tried a different solution. So that's important here. That's important here. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but you have to understand the benefits people are hoping to get out of, because a product that they might have just failed with might give them a new benefit that they're hoping to get that is specific to that product. So for example, before I move on to make this a little bit more sticky, if you're a man, right, scratch that. If you're a woman and you dated a guy and that guy was a complete sham, right? He made you pay, was rude, right? Materialistic, talking about himself. Well, you know that you don't want that type of guy. So a benefit that you're looking for, if you go to Match.com or Plenty of Fish, you might say, hey, I'm looking for a guy who is not going to slam the car door after a movie because he was upset about something I said, right? Now that's a specific benefit, but that's a benefit you only know that you want because you had somebody do it to you. So the same thing is happening in your market, right? If you help people with gut issues, well, they might have taken probiotics or Miralax and they might have felt a certain way. And they're like, you know what? I don't want to feel, and think about this. They might say, hey, I don't want to feel the way Miralax makes me feel. Boom. That's important for you to know, right? That's important for you to know. So, again, back to this pyramid, right? So these are the reasons why we survey, right? Just so you understand. We want to understand their problem, what they've tried before, how they failed, what that failure felt like, and what new solutions they're looking for. Basically, essentially what we're trying to do is reverse engineer the customer journey, right? So if you read a lot of marketing books, if you're one of the functional practitioners who actually has time, and that's not a diss, but if you have time to actually study, right, whether it's you're in the car or you're on the treadmill and you're listening to marketing stuff because you're trying to control your practice, you're trying to have control over your practice, you might hear buzzwords like customer journey, right? You might hear stuff like that, and it sounds good, right? It sounds good, but how do you make that a practice? How do you implement that, right? Now, I'm going to give you plain and simple. No matter what industry you're in or what niche of an industry you're in, a customer always goes from 5 different stages, right? They go through these 5 different stages. So if you see my arrow here, no matter what, right? This is something Grant Cardone says. He's a famous salesperson. He said, nobody's born a salesman, but we're all born babies, okay? So it's kind of the same thing here for the most part, right? I know there's genetic and inherited diseases, but for the most part, we're not born with a specific illness or awareness of that illness. We're born a baby who wants our mama, all right? So at some point, our prospect was completely unaware of an issue, but then something happened that they began becoming aware that they had a problem, right? So they went from unaware of anything going wrong, anything that's wrong, and now they know, oh wow, my gut hurts. Oh wow, my feet hurt. Oh wow, my hands hurt. Or oh wow, I'm fatigued. And they're just aware that they have a problem, right? So they start searching online. They go to Google, right? So by the way, they cross this barrier, right? So just pretend it's like the blood-brain barrier. They cross this barrier into problem aware. Now they just know they have a problem. They don't know why it's happening. They don't know about genetics. They don't know about the microbiome. They don't know about the gut being the root cause of the issue. They don't know about any of that stuff. They just know, hey, I'm tired, right? Then they start Googling. They have some choices. They can go to the medical doctor, right, on their insurance packet. They can go to a massage therapist, right, if they have, if they're having joint pains, or they can go to a chiropractor if they have joint pains, or they can go to a nutritionist if they're feeling fatigue, or, they can go to a holistic guy, or, they don't really know the difference between holistic, regenerative, functional. So they might say, oh, wow, I can go to a functional medicine guy, a holistic guy, a regenerative guy, a nutritionist, a medical doctor. I can get over-the-counter stuff, right? So they have all these different solutions for their problem, and they start doing research. And then, you know what? I want to go from functional medicine practitioner. Now they become aware of the product or aware of the solution, right? So they're aware of all the different solutions, and they pick one, right? Now they become product aware. They're like, okay, well, a functional medicine practitioner for this gut issue, he can give me a GI map. Now they're aware of the fact that they want a GI map, how much it costs, and if you actually gave them 40% off, how much of a deal it would be. But here's what you need to realize. This is shaped as a pyramid for a reason, right? This is shaped as a pyramid for a reason, because there's always going to be more people who are completely unaware that they have an issue than people who are aware that they have a problem, right? There's always going to be more people who don't know the problem and don't know you. There's always going to be, that is the biggest audience you can go after, is the person who's unaware, right? So if you're a chiropractor, you're watching this, So what I mean by unaware is somebody who picked up somebody who just retired, hasn't worked out in years, but needs to get out the house, get away from his wife, and needs to start playing golf. Well, he's unaware that he's a perfect candidate for somebody who's about to have back problems, right? He's a perfect candidate. He's about to have back problems. He's a ticking time bomb. Well, he's in that unaware stage, right? So for somebody who's a new golfer, who's unaware that they're going to have back issues, you would have to say something specific to that person to get their attention, right? So if I wanted to sell a person who's new to golfing on my chiropractic services, I wouldn't say, hey, do you have back pain? Because he doesn't. What I would say is something like this. I would say something like, the top 3 secrets behind why Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, and Rory McIlroy won 3 majors before they were 17. Right? Again, I don't know if that's true, but that's something I would say, because they're like, oh, wow, I just began golfing. I want to golf. And then what I would do is I would slowly persuade them to saying that they used to get, chiropractic adjustments before every single tournament because of the pressure of the golf rotation. And now I just made them aware of the problem that most golfers have. But you see, it wasn't until I understood where different people are and the different desires for each stage that I was able to do that. Right? And that's what I'm going to teach you a little bit later in this presentation, is that each one of these stages, not only are they different in awareness, right? This person, they're not aware that they're at risk for a problem. This person who has a problem doesn't really know about all the solutions. These people have different desires, right? This person who's completely unaware has a desire of being the best golfer. This person who's in back pain has a desire of feeling normal, right? This person who has all these different solutions between a massage therapist and acupuncture for their back pain, well, they're looking for something that actually might work, right? Because they know, okay, wow, something works, but like, what's going to work for me? Now, at this point, they start worrying about price, personality, do I vibe well? And this person is looking for a deal. But what happens is a lot of people want to go after the biggest opportunity, but they're saying stuff like, GI map 40% off. Well, somebody who's problem aware doesn't know what a GI map is. They just know they have back pain, right? So here's the thing. This is a pyramid for a reason. So the most opportunity is always going to be here. So me as a copywriter, I try to make my campaigns always at these 2 bottom levels, always, right? However, as you go up the pyramid, right, as the pyramid gets smaller, the sale gets easier, right? So a sale of somebody who's most aware, for the most part, is easier, right? So if you have an associate under you, or you have, you're in a practice with somebody else, you probably would give somebody you would give your associate a sale of somebody who's a little bit more knowledgeable than somebody who's a little less knowledgeable. Why? Because you know that you have to take them a longer distance than this person. Well, here's a physical manifestation of that, right? So the higher you get in the pyramid, the more aware a prospect is, the easier it is to sell. But guess what? The less of them there are. The less of them there are. And if you target just this, guess what? Now you're at the race to the bottom, because now you're a commodity, right? You haven't had a chance to state your case. You haven't had a chance to state why your product is better and the different mechanisms it uses. No, you're just saying, hey, 40% off. Well, now they're like, oh, well, what about 45, right? You have somebody come in and they're a little bit cheap. Well, it's because you met them at a logical level, so they're going to try to milk you. But if you make that shift here, if you start talking to people who are problem aware and unaware of the issue, and you're able to create your sales message and take them from the beginning, now you get to avoid that commodity, that race to the bottom.
Certain of one thing, right? It's not like we're speaking solely to people in this stage. Yes, people naturally fall in each stage of the awareness. You're going to have more people who are more aware than others. But the cool thing about this is that if you craft a campaign that's for somebody who's completely unaware, or if you craft a campaign that's for somebody who's problem aware, it works for that stage and all the stage above it. So for example, if you remember, I said, if I were to speak to somebody who's completely unaware of back pain, I might use something like the 3 things that Tiger Woods Phil Mickelson and Rory McIlroy did to win 7 majors before 17. Well, that's a message that would appeal to somebody who's most aware, right? If I create a campaign about this secret nutrient that cures back pain, that cures back pain inflicted by golf, well, that's going to be appealing to somebody who's most aware. However, it does not work the opposite way. So if I say 45% off of the GI map, well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work for somebody who's problem aware because they don't know what the GI map is, they don't know how it helps, etc. So I just want to make sure that we're not confused. If you create a campaign for one level, it works for that level and the levels above, right? It works for that level and the level above, right? So yes, there's people who fall in different stages of the prospect awareness pyramid. However, the message you craft is going to be applicable for one stage and all of the preceding stages. And that's why this one has the most opportunity. So I just want to make sure we're not confused about that. It's not just like, oh, well, I'm creating a campaign for solution aware and that's the only people who's going to appeal to it. No, it's going to be solution aware people and the people above. Right? And that's why just discounting stuff does not work. That's why discount stuff just does not work because it's only a small people that would even matter to. Okay? So make sure that's clear.
And as we wrap up this section, just remember, the opportunity is a lot more at the bottom of this pyramid, but it's harder to sell. It's a lot less at the top of the pyramid, but it's easier to sell. But the reason why we have to focus on one is just like I said, each one is a different message, right? When you met your girlfriend, you met your husband, you guys spoke a lot differently than you do now, right? Now you're just like, hey, better put down that damn toilet seat, right? But that's not something you would say at the beginning of a relationship when they were unaware of how good of a person you are, right? You didn't want to offend them and all that stuff. It's the same thing in marketing. Every different level of awareness gets a different message. Okay, so how do we find that though, right? Because at the end of the day, this is what you also need to realize. Every market has people in every step, right? So if you're a functional medicine practitioner and you're going after somebody with thyroid, well, you're going to have people who are unaware. You're going to have people who are aware of the problem. You're going to have people who are aware of the solution. You have people who are aware of the product, people who are most aware, right? So people fall in all of these rungs or all of these stages or all of these ladders of the pyramid. So there's going to be people everywhere, right? So our job during this interview, during this survey process, is to find what do people feel when they're completely unaware. What do they feel? What do they want? When people are problem unaware, what do they feel? What do they want? Etc. Etc. So this is how we find that out, right? We ask the survey, and the first question that we usually ask, and this is not necessarily in any particular order, but some of the questions that we ask on our survey is, when it comes to choosing a location for neuropathy treatment, what's the single biggest challenge or frustration you've dealt with? Right, so this is a problem-aware question. This is me trying to figure out what is the problem, right? When it comes to solving your neuropathy, when it comes to choosing a location, what's the biggest problem? And what you'll have is people tell you, oh man, I just can't feel, I can't, I get pushed around from appointment. You have to see the neurologist, and I have to go back to this specialist. I have to go back to this specialist, and nobody's taking me. It takes 6 months to get on their calendar. Wow. Okay, that's great to know. That's great to now I can use that against them in advertisement, right? So the second thing is, when you first decided to look for neuropathy treatment, what was going on in your life that caused you to finally seek out and invest in it, right? So this is more of an unaware question. What I'm asking them is, hey, before you sort out neuropathy treatment, what was life like? Like, what made you finally decide to take action on your illness? Well, that's going to tell me where they're like, you know what? I was playing golf and one day I hurt my back. I was putting and I tried to play through it, but it just got to a point where I woke up, I couldn't get out of bed, and that finally made me pull the trigger. Wow, that's great. Now that's stuff I can use in my ads. So as you're starting to see, the more I ask questions, the more ammo I get to use in my ads. This is how I can go from barely saying the word peripheral neuropathy to be able to drive 41 patients in less than a week. Because I don't write the ads, the the patient writes the ads for me. Okay, so the next question, what other solutions did you consider, right? What other solutions have you considered? Well, that's going to tell me before they chose us, right? Because for the most part, I'm interviewing patients. I'm interviewing past patients. So for what this is going to tell me is, okay, now I know their problem, right? I know what made them finally take action. So I know what it's like when they're problem aware. I know what it's like when they're completely unaware. Now, before they came to us, I know what other solutions are on the market, right? So, you know, if this person's suffering with IBS, they might say, hey, man, you know, I tried this peppermint thing and it just didn't work. Oh, wow. Okay, great. So peppermint is a competitor that we have to address in our ads. We have to address the fact that peppermint is not the option for you, because we know people in this market are looking at that solution. And let me just say something real quick. That's marketing, right? Marketing is picking a group of similar people and empathizing with them, right? So when you're just talking about your product, you're selling because you're not talking to a market. You're selling people on your product. When you're talking to a market, you're saying, hey, listen, man, I know you're struggling with this. I know that you tried this before and it just didn't work. I know that it's frustrating trying solution after solution and having to plead to your wife that, you know, this time it's going to work as the credit card bill dwindles. Now you're speaking to a market. That's marketing, right? So unless you're speaking to somebody, you're not marketing, right? If you just, hey, if you're trying to sell your product, you're not marketing. That marketing is being able to empathize with a specific group of people. This is why you have to niche down, okay? And then the last question is, what was the number one reason you say what would you say is the number one reason you ended up choosing us for your treatment? Again, finding out the benefits, right? Finding out the benefits of why they ended up saying yes to us. Now, after we do survey, the last question on the survey is, if you agree, if we agree not to sell you anything on the phone, you know, we wish to follow up, blah, blah, blah. So basically we ask for the number, right? We say, hey, you know, we wish to follow up with everybody who took the survey to better understand your situation. If we promise not to sell you anything on the phone, would you be open to speaking to one of my associates on the phone? And 70% of the people say yes. So now think about this, right? From a data standpoint, I know exactly what so let's just say a doctor has 1,000 people on their email list. And I had like 200 people answer this survey. Now I have a whole bunch of answers as to what people are going through. And then I'm going to call about 70 people on the phone. I'm going to call at least 15. I'm going to call at least 15. I might have some, other people on my team do the rest, but I'm going to call everybody that said yes. Because guess what? I'm going to record the call and I'm going to transcribe it, because those are where my best ads come from. My best ads do not come from me. I am more of a detective, if anything, right? I find the answer. I don't create it. So phone interviewing, right? After people complete the survey and provided their phone number, following up is key to getting an even deeper understanding of the market. It's key, right? You get a better sense of who your prospect is on a personal level. You get analogies, you get metaphors, you get stories that they use, you get the way that they describe it. Now when I'm running my ad, I fit in. I don't seem like a salesperson. I seem like one of them, right? And my number one thing, I transcribe the call and I copy and paste my ads. I copy and paste it. I mean, it's so funny when clients get mad at me. You know, I had one medical spa one time that basically fired me because I copied an ad. I tweaked it a little bit. And they're like, oh, this doesn't follow our brand message. I'm like, listen, what does that even mean? Your brand is supposed to be your customer. How are you creating your brand around something that your prospects don't even speak like that? This is how they speak. I'm using their, no, not our, hey, listen, you're probably better off without me, right? So, when you talk to your customers on the phone, you have and you know what questions to ask, you can get them telling you everything that you need to do in your ads, right? And this is the thing. People get scared about Facebook ads, YouTube ads. They get overwhelmed. But really, all marketing is automated sales. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to duplicate the one-on-one sales experience online, right? I'm trying to duplicate the one-on-one sales experience online. I'm trying to talk to one person. So the more I speak to people, the more I can just repeat it back to them, right? So that's phone interview. Now, last part, eavesdropping. Now, here's what you have to understand. at this point, I've surveyed old customers. I've spoken to old customers, but for the most part, like attracts like. So I do what I call eavesdropping to make sure that there's no stone unturned, that there's no leaf unturned, right? The reason why I say that is because what you might figure out is that, you might attract a certain customer based off what you're doing currently, right? Especially if you're a functional medicine practitioner and you're getting leads from your, your insurance model. Well, that's going to skew who you're getting, right? So what I like to do is I don't just like to rely on old customers, but I like to see if there's any other opportunities out here. I like to see if there's any other blue oceans online that you previously haven't served, right? This is kind of me, again, just double checking my work. You're going to hear me say this a lot, double checking my work. So I listen to all your previous customers, but I'm like, hey, listen, let me just make sure that there isn't any other opportunity out there for us. And for the most part, there always is, because you're going to get a certain amount of customers. You're not going to get the whole industry. So I want to make sure, okay, we're not leaving anything on the table. And this is what we do. We do eavesdropping, right? So what basically eavesdropping is where we go to platforms like, this is Amazon, right? This is Yelp, right? These might both be Yelp rather. But we go to YouTube comments, we go to Yelp, right? We go to blog comments, Reddit, Quora, and we just listen to people vent, right? Negativity is obviously a bad thing. But the good thing about negativity from a marketing standpoint is that it makes marketing easy. Marketing in 2019 is so easy. Right? If you know what you're doing, if you have a process like I'm explaining to you here, if you just know where to look, man, people are complaining left and right? People are leaving bad reviews. People are complaining on forums. People are cursing other people out. They're having a pity party, but it's good for me because if I can tap into that, now we can get them into your office, right? So why do we do that, right? We want to further expand our research in case we don't have enough patients to speak to, right? So sometimes, and this is the sad reality for most, doctors I speak to, they don't have any testimonials, right? They don't have an email list. They treat people and people just walk out the door, right? They can't go ahead and prove their work. So for the most part, I don't have the 10 to 15 phone calls I need because the market, the business, the doctor has just been so busy being a doctor that he hasn't thought about the marketing. Now it puts me in a tough situation. So that's number one, why I do it. Number two, like I said, I want to see if there's any untapped markets. And then number three, what we find is most businesses get more of the same type of customers, right? We want to look for blue oceans, right? So this is why we do that. Now, that's phase number one. Phase number one is prospect research, okay? So now, at this point, we have a lot of survey responses. We have 10 to 15 phone calls, and we have a whole bunch of complaints. Now, what did we do with that, right? Well, we organized that. We organized that bad boy, right? So phase number two is organizing the data, right? So after collecting voice of customer data from our prospects, the next step is to place all the information into one Google Sheet that's easier for handling and organizing, right? So this is a famous, this is a funny line I heard from somebody. They say basically marketing means that you're in Google Sheet all day. And for the most part, that's true. I spend an unhealthy amount of my time in Google Sheets, and I'm not happy to admit it, right? But the second thing that we do, and I'm going to show all you guys pictures for this, is we want to, after we dump everything into a Google Sheet, what we want to do is we want to analyze and segment the data based off the prospect's problems and levels of awareness, right? So I know I spent like a good hour on this, but here's the thing. This is the holy grail of marketing, right? Here's the holy grail of marketing. If you can take one niche and create a campaign for each level of awareness, that's how you take over an industry, right? That's how, there's a famous functional medicine practitioner named Dr. Axe, right? He's a big fan of some of my clients. That's the way Dr. Axe becomes Dr. Axe, right? You have to be prolific, right? Like Prince. Like, Prince, they used to always say Prince is not better than Michael Jackson, but he's prolific, right? If you're prolific, this is how you can get patients in your door, right? If you can speak to somebody who's completely unaware, you tap into this segment of that niche. If you tap into this is how you create blue oceans, right? This is what they did not say in the book, right? So I have the book. I don't know where it's at, But this is what they did not say in the book, The Blue Ocean Shift. This is what they didn't say. They say, blue ocean, blah, 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 blah. But really, how you find a blue ocean is you segment the problems, right? You want to segment the problem, right? What particular persona in this niche is not getting served? Which one is getting underserved? And how can we serve them, right? So that's exactly what I'm going to teach you. Now, for the most part, when I take on a new client, they know nothing about this. This is why I'm changing my whole business model, right? Because to me, I take things personally, right? I like to put out good work. I like to do the best I can. But sometimes when clients just tell me, hey, just put up the advertisement, I get offended, right? I get offended. It's like, I feel like it's a monkey dance, like, whatever, what they call that, song and monkey dance. It's more complicated than that, right? So I'm changing my business model in a sense where I'm putting out a whole bunch of education. I'm going to teach functional medicine practitioners to do it by themselves. If you have enough money, enough time, enough patience to figure this out, when it took me 5-6 years, you go ahead and do it, right? And do it yourself, right? But I'm putting out education because for me, I'm going to a place where you have to be certified in my system before you can talk to me. Because when people talk to me about running an ad and getting me patients to my practice, they just think I'm going to do one ad, right? They just think I'm going to do one ad, right? So let me show you something really quick. So if you ever get on a sales call with me, you're going to see this slide. Right? So this is like the moment in the sales call I'm funny, or at least try to be. This is what clients ask for, right? They say things like, Andrew, I need you to grow my business. I need you to generate more leads for my product or my service. So create one ad. And I'm like, oh, whoa. It's not like that at all, right? What it really looks like more is like this, right? This is more what it looks like in my system. You have a service, right? You have a service, you have a product. And what we need to do is we need to break that into problem number one, problem number two, right? So if you have a person who has a thyroid issue, or you have somebody who has IBS, well, just because they have the same illness or disorder doesn't mean they're experiencing the same thing, right? Somebody with a thyroid might be upset that they're fatigued because they're a new mom, right? They might be upset that they're a new mom and that they don't have the energy to take care of their kids, while another one might be upset that they're gaining weight, right? She's single, but she's gaining weight. So what happens is that becomes its own ad campaign. While the weight loss becomes its own ad campaign. And then you might have a guy who's losing his libido. That's a whole different ad campaign because the women aren't going to relate to that at all, right? And then you keep on creating different ads for each problem, right? And now once you meet them at the problem, now you can start introducing all of these people to the same solution. Because guess what? Problem aware. Right? You have to talk people in your niche, right? So if you're serving IBS, you're serving neuropathy, you're serving autoimmunity issues. All of these people, if you talk to literally 60 people like I have for one client, everybody has their own story about why they're unique and why their problem can't be solved, and you might experience that too if you lost sales, right? Nobody in the world has 100% sales ratio, closing ratio. So, and you know that everybody has their own thing why this can't work for them. Guess what? If you know that's the reality, why would you show everybody the same ad? That's stupid, right? So what you want to do is you want to tap into that fact that they're unique and tell them a unique story. And the way you do that is not by creating one ad like this picture shows. You don't want to do that. This is how, if you're a functional medicine, a holistic, a regenerative medicine practitioner, this is how you'll go out of business. Right? If this is the cycle, this is who I want to compete against, right? If this is you, I want to compete against you. I want to get number one, I want to help you. Number two, if you don't want my help, I want to get a functional medicine practitioner who's in your same city so I can beat you down. Take all the patients. Because this right here, nobody's those days are over, right? Where it's a TV ad or radio ad and you think you can just you think you could just, you think you could just broadcast your message to everybody and they're just going to do what you say. Those days are over. So I'm having some technical difficulties. Let me go fix this screen real quick. Let me go fix this. Okay, so we're back. So this is what you want to do, right? This is how your campaign should be looking, right? So then this is what I call, right? That whole soliloquy is about what I call our tree trunk methodology. Okay. So imagine a tree. And if you can't imagine a tree, look at the screen. You have a tree right here. And all these trees have different branches, right? So these branches signify different problems that your market is having. So think about your niche as this tree, right? So this beautiful tree that's almost dead is your niche. There are different branches within that niche. So in this specific case, we have 6 branches in a tree trunk, right? We have 6 branches in this one niche. Great. All 6 of those branches need their own ads. That's how you should look at your market. Now, the reason why I'm telling you to niche down is because guess what? Each new niche is a different tree. Now, if you add another tree into it, that's 2 trees, 6 branch, 12 branch. That's how you don't have a campaign running for like 2 years, right? So your niche is this tree. The problems are represented by those red circles with each branch. And guess what? Here's the thing. I'm gonna ask you a stupid question, but you're gonna get it. Imagine a cat, right, was stuck in a tree in this branch. That cat represents your patient right now. So you have a patient who's stuck in this branch. And when I say stuck, they're going to conventional medicine doctors. They're getting prescribed antidepressants that they don't need. They're getting told that they're crazy. They actually don't want to go see help anymore. Insurance doesn't cover anything. So they're stuck. Okay. So that's the patient you want to get. That represents somebody who's going to pay your overhead. Would you then go climb this branch? Right. So if your patient was stuck on the left branch and they're having those problems, would you climb this branch to go get them? If you say yes, you can leave this presentation right now. Because the answer is an absolute no, because they're not on that branch. But yet, most people are marketing with that mindset. I'm like, hey, Mr. Client, I did some research. I looked at your previous ads. Nobody wants what you're talking about. Nobody said what you're talking about. No wonder why your ads aren't working, because nobody knows what you're talking about. Right? This is why you have to listen to your customers first. Because this is why I don't run unsuccessful campaigns. Right now, some campaigns are more profitable than others, of course. Some campaigns last longer than others, of course. But if you always start from a customer-centric approach, like Jeff Bezos said, the richest man in the world, he's about to give his wife $36 billion, and he's still by far the richest man in the world. Okay? So if he's about the customer first, guess what? There's probably something to it. So that's what I call the tree trunk methodology. Now, setting up the Google Sheet. The first thing we do in the Google Sheet, I don't have a picture here, but what we do is we create a tab, right, in Google Sheet. So let me see if I can find one for you. Let me pause this really quickly and see if I can find it. So what I did was I found an old client of mine. This is a client who's in property management. I mean, I even forgot I worked with this client. I mean, property management. I mean, you name it, whatever industry, I've done it, right? So here's how we set up the Google workbook, right? The Google Sheet. So if I just hide this right now really quickly for you, let me just hide this so it's easier to see. So the sheets that we absolutely need in this workbook are the negative, what you see in blue right now, right? What you see in blue right now is what we absolutely need in the workbook, right? We need negative emotions, we need positive emotions, we need benefits, and we need objections. Right. So when we're surveying people, right, and we're talking to people on the phone, we copy and paste and we throw it into here. Right. So, for example, a negative emotion that somebody in this industry was having was the fact that, if you just read this right here. Right. So property management. These are people who are owning or responsible for properties of other people, right? So they basically have clients who they list their properties for on Airbnb, VRBO, and stuff like that. And what this property manager person was saying is that the photographer is no longer free, right? I paid $135 to Airbnb for the photographer who posted some faded, washed out, right? So they're complaining. So basically, not to read through all of these comments, right, is the fact that I take these comments and I start just throwing them in negative emotions, positive emotions, benefits, so I can start seeing what are the negative emotions about this industry, right? When it comes to posting your house on VR, again, I never ever posted my apartment on, Airbnb or VRBO. So I could not, I don't know. Again, almost every industry I've worked in, I've never worked in for the most part previously, right? Because when I was at the agency, I worked with authors, right? So I went working with Tyler Beth, selling online courses, to working at the agency, marketing authors, right? Like Princeton professors. Then I started working with functional medicine practitioners and property managers and med spas and dentists. And so every industry I walked into, I literally did not know what I was doing, right? But if I listen and I start throwing them into these different sections here, I can start seeing, okay, the objections, right? Again, this is a old sheet. This isn't even the final draft, but I just wanted to show you that these are different tabs, right? Different tabs. I just want to show you that example, right? So let me move that here. So we create these different tabs. And what we're trying to do, we have a tab for negative emotions. We have a tab for positive emotions. We have a tab for benefits, right? Objections. And this is where my clients begin to start becoming impressed with me, because now I can start, I have a kind of a client call every week. If you work with me, I speak to you once a week to kind of get stories from you, to go over ad campaigns, to go over the stats, the strategy. So I make sure I speak to my clients every week. But this is where they start becoming impressed, because now what I can start doing is I can start telling them objections that they've heard before. And they're like, hey, Andrew, how do you know that? And I'm like, hey, I listen. Right? I listen to your patients, right? And I actually had one client, one of my favorite clients, not that I play favorites or anything, but, Dr. Shinsky out in Pennsylvania, I remember one time, he used to go live like every week on a Wednesday. And after we ran the survey, he came on the webinar and he gave a different talk using our research, right? So he gives a talk every month. He goes live every week. And, he was kind of just going with the flow, but then he read the research and he said that was one of the best presentations he ever had as far as feedback, because the people were like, oh my God, how did you know how I felt? And that's the power this is going to get you, right? So we have a tab with all 5 of these things, all 6 of these things, right? So the ones you didn't see are declarative statements and desires, right? So declarative statements are basically stuff that, these are things that know-it-alls are going to say, right? These are things that people in the blogs are going to say and give advice to other people, right? So let me go bring up another one. That way I can kind of show you a more recent example of our document. Okay, so I'm back. So here's a more recent example of our document right here, and you'll see that these, this workbook has all of the appropriate tabs, right? So we have negative emotions, right? So these are the comments, right? These are the comments that I got from surveys and from phone interviews. Okay, these are things that people actually say, right? These are lawyers, right? These are lawyers. We have negative emotions. We have misconceptions, right? We have positive emotions. Let me hide that right now. That's too complicated for this case study. But we have negative emotions, positive emotions, objections, benefits, declarative statements, and desires. Okay, let me hide these two. All right. Hide sheet and ideas. These are promotional ideas. And let me just hide these. Okay. So these are the tabs that you must have, right? If you're doing your research, you have these, right? You read stuff, and then now you can start seeing objections, literally. Like, this is what people are saying. Like, social media may not be the right medium for my lawyer client, but it could be a place to showcase other. These are what people believe in this market, right? In this market, this is what people believe. Now, here are declarative statements, right? These are know-it-all smart Alex, okay? So let's read some real quick, right? Here we go, right? So this is somebody responding to somebody online. They say, integrating multiple online marketing channels is crucial for your success in today's online marketing space, right? These are people, like, again, they think they know what they're talking about, right? Again, that's not to diss this person, but like now you start understanding, okay, this is what they've heard before, right? So as a marketer, what this is telling me is I can't come out and say something that these lawyers already know. These lawyers already know integrating multiple online marketing channels is critical for their success, right? So one thing you're going to learn about economics, right? If you ever took economics class in college, one thing you're going to learn about economics is people are not going to pay you for something they already know, right? If you weren't a functional medicine practitioner, if you weren't able to solve problems that conventional medicine couldn't, you wouldn't be able to get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 without insurance, right? So the same thing applies in marketing. If these people are already saying these things, right? So let me find another one, right? Oh, I agree. Focusing on a specific niche, right? I cannot then come out and say that in my marketing. If I say, you know, this was an agency. If I tell this market, you should focus on a niche, they're not going to click my ad. They're like, bro, I heard that before. Boring, right? So remember this. People are not going to pay you for something they already know, right? This is generic, right? So I have to find a way to be different. And this is what declarative statements ask me to do. So negative emotions, these are people complaining, right? Positive emotions, these are people rarely, right? Rarely, this is always the smallest tab I have. These are people telling about their good experience. Objections, why would they object to a sale, right? What would stop them from buying? Benefits, what they're hoping to get out of an engagement. Declarative statements, what they've heard before. Desires are deeper, like, you know, what are their altruistic goals? Okay, so that's how this is a prime example of a good workbook, right? So we always do that. And then once we do that, we start theming the comments. Okay, so once we start creating that workbook, what we then do is we take all of the comments and then we start giving them themes or keywords. Now, what this is going to help us do is, because let me be quite honest, this in itself is not very helpful, right? If you gave me this, I can't do anything with this. Now, it's cool and it's fun to read these comments, but I can't really have a successful marketing campaign with these comments, right? I can't. So what I need to do is I need to start looking for trends, right? I need to start looking for recurring things so I can make sense of this, right? It's like if you know, I read a lot of magazines on Sunday. Sunday is like my magazine day. So I read like, you know, Bloomberg, Barron's, New Scientist, what else I read? Scientific America, Discover, you know, The Economist. I read like 7 magazines. I read like one page of one and the next page of it. So I read a lot. And the thing about Barron's, if you ever read like Stock or the Wall Street Journal or anything like that, if you ever like looked at some of the stock market stuff, it's like you can't make sense out of it. At least me, not yet. Like I like, you have to really you have to watch it every day to understand the trends, right? And then if you study it for a long time, you can see, okay, when this happens, then the Fed responds by lowering you know, interest rates at this point, and then you can start seeing it's the same thing in the market, right? The stock market is no different than the market you're marketing to now. We need to see trends, right? So as I do this, right, and I didn't know anything about neuropathy, I'm like, okay, well, feet and legs, tingles, hard to sleep. Toes and balls of foot numbness. Top of feet, boom, boom. So, okay, a lot of feet stuff, hard to sleep. But now I can start seeing trends. Now you might say, okay, well, this is something I couldn't Google, right? Well, guess what? When you Google stuff, yes, when I Googled neuropathy and I went to YouTube and I typed in neuropathy, there were a bunch of Eyewitness News, Fox, NBC News stories about people with neuropathy falling and crashing their car because they can't feel the gas on the pedal. But that's not going to necessarily tell me what they feel. And that's where people make a mistake in the marketing. They read an article from a doctor and they run an ad and they wonder why it doesn't make success. I mean, why it's not a success. Because is your doctor the one with neuropathy? Is your doctor the one who has to live with it? No. The people who have it are the ones who have to live with it. And guess what? I know how they describe it. So for example, read this last one. At the 30-day mark, my symptoms were just about cut in half. I could feel my toes again and feel like I'm standing on solid ground. The numbness and tingling of my feet, my toes, feet, calves have already greatly reduced. So in an ad, I might say something like, you've been struggling with neuropathy for 5, 10, 15 years, right? 15 years. And night after night, you struggled with the burning, the tingling, and the fire sensation at the balls of your feet. And sometimes the pains got so bad that you even interrupt your husband from all the twisting and turning you're doing. So you go to Amazon, you buy some supplements, and you finally feel some relief at the 30-day mark. All your symptoms are about cut in half, right? You finally feel like you're standing on solid ground. And the numbness, the tingling, and the feet, ankles have greatly reduced. However, there's one problem. You never quite feel 100%. Yes, the supplements you take have make you feel better. Yes, they reduce the symptoms slightly, but do you have to keep on spending money month after month after month to feel normal again? So just from that ad, do you see how powerful that ad would be? Just because I knew what they're saying, I knew their language, now I can tell them, oh, okay. Now I need to make sure my client that he can actually deliver on that. I need to make sure my client can deliver, but I'm not at that. Now that's the difference between marketing and selling. At no point did I sell him anything. I'm just relating to him. He's liking me. He feels like I know what I'm talking about. He feels like he can trust me. You can't build that unless you know what these people are talking about. Okay? So moving on with the presentation. You get all these comments, you put them in a line, you theme them, and now you can start seeing trends. Right? And then at the end, you can start creating buckets of people that you want to go after. So what we discovered, and these were some of our buckets, were, okay, people with type 2 diabetes who were taking things like, they get this pill, right? So type 2 diabetes causes neuropathy, right? For insulin resistance. But the drug that they're giving for their diabetes only makes their B12 absorption worse, which means that the neuropathy gets worse, right? So it's like if you have neuropathy and diabetes, it's either you solve one or the other, right? And that was a big, huge blue ocean. Like, oh, wow, okay. People who had chemotherapy was a big thing, right? Pinched nerves, right? Alcohol abuse. So these are some of the buckets. And some of the buckets that are not included on here was the fact that people buy supplements and the supplements work for 30 days. Or they get a supplement, it finally works, and then the manufacturer triples the price. Right? So people who buy supplements and are frustrated by either it not working or the price going up, those are different buckets. So now I'm starting to find blue oceans, right? So my assistant who made these slides should have made these blue because these are blue oceans. These are blue oceans. We're going after neuropathy. Now we're starting to specify it into different trees, right? So we're starting to specify into different trees. One tree is about supplements. Another tree is about type 2 diabetes. Another tree is about alcohol abuse, right? So if my client is on this one, I'm going to go up the alcohol abuse tree. If my patient is on the type 2 diabetes tree, I'm going to go on the type 2 diabetes tree. It's simple as that. Like it's about getting all the data and organizing it in a way where you can use it. Now, once we have the buckets, I'm going to answer these series of 70 questions. Now, my employees absolutely hate me, right? So I have a copy team here. I think copywriting is the most important skill in the 21st century, right? If you need to understand the skill of copywriting, that is how I was able to go from being fired from an agency, my sole source of income, to literally tripling my paycheck in 2 months. Because once you can bring people money, they will give you money, right? That's economics. Again, now the reason why I'm saying that is not to say that you should start your marketing company, but I'm saying that one thing about copywriting, and this is something that Ty always taught me, he said, you should not write anything until you feel like crap, right? So you as a functional medicine practitioner, or you as the marketing director for a functional medicine practitioner, if you're doing the marketing, either for your business or for your client who's a functional medicine practitioner, you should not write anything until you feel empathetic for your avatar, right? So for example, right? I fill out 70 questions for this bucket. 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 Because these people have their own story that's in their head, right? So somebody who has alcohol abuse, one of the stories that I read was somebody who had alcohol abuse, finally spent all the time getting over the alcohol abuse, but tapped out their system so much that now they're suffering for a sin of the past that they worded it. Like now, you know, I went through all this hard work to get rid of my alcohol abuse and now I'm still suffering. Well, guess what? That's something I want to tap into. But here's the thing. That appeal is not going to work with somebody with type 2 diabetes, right? So people who have type 2 diabetes might have never drank a day in their life. So if I use that message for them, they're not going to care. So what I need to do, what my team does, is we answer these 70 questions for each bucket so we can come up with a specific story for that individual. Now, here's a quick tip. Every time you get a testimonial, you should have your secretary or your marketing person listen to the testimonial video and fill out these questions. So if you have a database full of different patients and you have these questions filled out, it's going to put your marketing at a whole nother level. A whole nother level. Once you make that switch in your brain that you talking to people and not selling product, your marketing is going to go to a whole different level, right? So that completes phase number 3. So, no, that completes phase number 2. So now we're going to phase number 3, right? So phase number 3, competitor research. Now, here's the thing. It's important to know what other competitors are offering and how they're presenting their service so we know what not to say, right? So in the marketing space, there's a big thing called funnel hacking, right? Now, Russell Brunson, I read both of his books, great marketer. I got a chance to meet him during my time out in LA. Awesome, smart, bright individual. And he coined the term funnel hacking. And to me, while I understand his premise, it's complete BS in practice, right? Now, the reason why I say that, and again, this is not what he intended, but this is the reality. It's BS because what people do is they do competitive research. So they look at their, you know, the functional medicine practitioner down the road or the functional practitioner in the next town over. And what happens is they start copying them. But here's the thing. You don't know if what they're doing is working. You don't know if it's having an effect. You start copying something that you don't know what works. And guess what? Now you start hurting yourself because remember back to that pyramid. Remember back to that pyramid, right? Here's the thing. And this is so important that you understand this. So this is the prospect awareness pyramid, right? What happens if you start copying your prospect? I mean, you're copying your competition. What happens is the customer is like, oh, well, I heard that before. Now this is where it puts you in a bind. So remember what I said, the first thing I said, what's wrong with product aware campaigns, right? Remember, if you go remember, what's wrong with the prospect aware, what's wrong with product aware campaigns? The one thing I said what's wrong with product aware campaigns is that half of the people are already happy with a competitor while the other half are skeptical. Okay, so this is what I mean. So if you start your campaigns talking about your product, this is the position most functional chiropractors find themselves in. Number one, you spend a whole lot of money getting in front of people. And let me just find this real quick. You spend a whole lot of money getting in front of people who've heard that message before. So half of them are already doing business with the competitor. Half of them are already doing business with the competitor. They're like, hey, I heard that message before. It resonated. That's why I'm in this guy's program. So they're not in the market for it. And then the other half have heard it before and they're not part of that program because it didn't resonate with them, or they tried the program, it didn't work, so they're back in the market. Here's the definition of a market. The definition of a market is a group of similar and unsatisfied customers, right? So for somebody to be in the market, that means they had either not tried the current solution or they tried the current solution or dissatisfied. So why would you then copy somebody else's work? You're not going to win. Like you literally, there's zero opportunity for you. So when I do competitive research, it's because I'm looking at what not to say, right? If there's somebody who's talking about peppermint and all that stuff, either I'm going to find a new way to position the peppermint or I'm going to not talk about peppermint at all, right? Because according to the logic of a market, it's going to put me in two positions. Either half of the market likes the message and they're already doing business with the person who was before me, or the other half don't like it, or they've tried it and failed, and they're like, hey, well, I tried that and it doesn't work. And then that's how you start getting negative comments in your Facebook, right? So this is what we did, right? We started looking at other chiropractic, and I hope none of this is you guys watching this, but we started, we looked at some of the competitors in the area, being in this particular client was in New York. So we looked at some neighboring states, and we just wanted to see what they were saying, right? What they were saying when it comes to neuropathy, and, some of these pictures right here that had nothing to do with neuropathy, but we just wanted to see what were people saying, right? We looked at their ads, we looked at their landing pages, we looked at their hooks, right? How are they wording their sales pitches, right? How are they getting people to click on their links? And finally, what are they doing to make the sale, right? So what we noticed in this market was that people were having a lot of free dinners, right? So the people having free dinner seminar. Okay, cool. That's good to know that people are doing that, right? So that concludes the competitive research. It's just keeping a pulse on the market, right? It's keeping a pulse on the market. It's seeing what not to say and what to do, right? So to me, a free dinner is something we may test and we may not test. But for the most part, all this stuff is stuff that I'm not going to say. Oh, okay. This is what our prospect in this area has already heard before. Cool. I know that I need to further the conversation with them. Okay. So that concludes competitive research. And now we go deep into, we start getting into the product research. Now, a famous quote that I read in a copywriting book. I forgot who said it, whether it was, I don't know who said it, but he basically said, all marketing is connecting, all copywriting is connecting the market to the product, right? So I spent the first 2-3 weeks of the campaign researching. I'm researching what the prospect is feeling. I'm talking to the prospect. I'm transcribing phone calls. I'm doing all that stuff. And then I'm looking at the competition, so I know what not to say. Now, only then do I start caring about what the customer has to sell, right? Because if I know the market intimately, I can sell anything. So what most people do, or most, companies or, functional medicine agencies or whatever they call themselves, they dive right into your mechanism, your process, your protocol. To me, your protocol means absolutely nothing until we understand the market through and through. Because if we can relate to them, it can make up for your protocol not being the best, right? Because unless you make somebody care and believe that you have the answer, you might give them the best answer, the best protocol, but if you didn't relate to them, they're not going to trust that this will help them because you didn't describe them. You didn't describe to them your pains, their pains, their frustrations. So they're like, hey, this protocol seems nice, but how does this help me, right? Or they might just think to themselves, oh, this doesn't feel right, right? Because you have to, before you give somebody the answer, right? You have to have foreplay. You have to have foreplay. And that's where marketing comes in. Before you sell, you market, right? Think of marketing as foreplay. So product research. Now that we kind of got the foreplay figured out, now that we understand what the market is going through, what they've tried before, their struggles, their frustrations, the benefits that we want. Now we start looking into the product. We start looking into the protocol, and we start figuring out, okay, doctor, Mr. Client, for somebody who has alcohol abuse neuropathy, how do you solve that? What about somebody who has chemotherapy or somebody who has a vertebrae in their spine that's a little, off balance, or they have a pinched nerve? How do you solve that differently than the alcohol abuse? Cool. Now I start interviewing the client, and they start giving me specific answers for each specific illness or specific variation of the illness. Now I'm starting creating hard-hitting copy. That's how I start creating hard-hitting copy, right? So product research. It's important to analyze our client service and identify the unique benefits it offers to each branch, okay? So why? Well, the features and benefits we focus on a particular ad is going to depend on who we're speaking to. right? In digital marketing, it's no longer enough to have one USP. And when I say USP, that means unique selling position, right? Unique selling proposition. Each branch cares about different features and benefits. So each branch needs a USP. Simple as that, right? I used to cold call, like I said, for a, I have the book here. It's called New Sales Simplified, right? This was probably one of the best books on just sales, period. And what he said is there's no such thing as when you're cold calling, there's no such thing as a USP, right? People will tell you all the time when you're cold calling or doing any sales, bring up the USP, bring up your selling proposition. But what he said, there's only things that's possible. He calls it the PSP. Instead of USP, he calls it PSP. And what he says is that you only have possible sales propositions. Because when you're calling somebody cold, they don't know you. You don't know them. So all you have is a good guess to what they might feel is a benefit to them. Well, the thing in marketing, if you do the research like I'm showing you this evening, you already know what's going to be a benefit to them. Right now, you just need to make sure you're telling that specific branch what they want to hear. Right? So if you have a laser that helps with, insulin resistance, well, somebody who has a pinched nerve that's not going to be really a benefit to them because they don't have insulin resistance. They're having a neurological misfiring. Right? So you wouldn't tell them about the laser that helps with insulin resistance because they don't have it. Right? So this is a USP for this group, but a USP for this group is you might have a specific adjustment technique that opens up the vertebrae and, releases the neurological blocks in the pathway. Right? Okay, so this person has a USP, this person has a USP, this person has a USP. That's what I'm talking about. Right? And what happens in cold calling is if you're cold calling this person, but you're telling them this person's USP, this is when they hang up on you. In marketing, doing it through our way, we eliminate all the guessing. Right? And this is what I tell my clients all the time. We're not in the guessing game, we're in the probability game. So what I'm doing is I'm playing high stakes poker. I'm playing high stakes poker by me getting all the data, segmenting it in this way. Now I'm increasing my probability of being accurate with what I'm saying, right? All good advertisement is accuracy. It's not being Stephen King. It's not using long sentences with commas and all this different type of punctuation. It's being accurate. Okay, is this ad saying how I feel? Yes or no? That's all marketing is, right? And you can't be accurate unless you ask questions, period. So now that we ask questions, now we understand the market, now I get to drill the client. Because I know what I'm looking for. I know the story that they want to hear. I know the story that the patient wants to hear. I need the client, the doctor, to tell me what I need to hear to make this true. Okay? So, one second. So there's three types of benefits, right? There's functional benefit, there's the emotional benefit, and there's the dimensionalized benefit. Right? So what I mean by that is this, right? For the most part, most of the doctors I speak to understand there's a difference between a feature and a benefit, right? So for example, a feature might be a cold laser therapy, cold laser, whatever, right? Cold laser. That might be a feature. Well, a functional benefit might be this helps increase blood flow to your feet, right? So this, I have a low level temperature therapy. This increases the blood flow to your feet, right? Now, that's where most marketers stop. They just say, okay, you have a low level laser. I don't even know what the heck it's called. I forgot the name of it, but it's basically those lasers that are cold, right? You have this laser, and it helps increase your blood flow. Now, that you have to do better than that in 2000, in whatever year you're watching this, right? It doesn't matter if it's 2002, 2019, 2020, 2025. It doesn't matter what year it is. 2040, right? It does not matter. What you need to understand is that you need to paint the picture in marketing for somebody. So, for example, you have low-level laser, right, which increases blood flow to your feet. Now, you need to dimensionalize that. And what dimensionalized benefit means is you need to make it 3D. And 3D means you need to bring that laser into their life, right? So this is what I would say. Okay, so you have this low level light therapy, a laser, whatever. It increases blood flow to the feet. Imagine 8 o'clock hitting on the, imagine 9 o'clock, imagine your alarm hitting 9 o'clock at night as you crawl into bed, lifting the covers over you and your wife, knowing that tonight you won't ruin her sleep. Right? That's how you dimensionalize it. Right? Emotionalized benefit is where you bring it to their desired emotion, right? So is it so I made it 3D, right? Imagine you being at home, right? Imagine having your appointment, going home, knowing that once 9 o'clock hits, boom, 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 right? So that's like a kind of a dimensionalized benefit because you're bringing the 3D laser into their life, right? And then the emotional benefit is kind of hitting on their emotions in a different sense. So let's just say this person has grandkids, right? Let's just say we figured out that in the market that the biggest emotional things that they can't really play with their grandkids. They can't bend down, right? They're on canes because they can't really feel the feet. Then you can say something like, what's even better is that when you wake up in the morning, you'll feel solid ground beneath your feet. And you can enjoy the walk you take to go downstairs as you bend down and pick up your grandkids without having to worry about falling due to loss of balance. Right? So now we're starting to paint the picture for them, because what the biggest indictment a marketer can make is trying to make the customer think too much. Right? Trying to make the customer think too much. Now, you don't always have to make it look, seem spammy or seem like genuine, right? You don't have to do that. But if you understand the customer and what they're going through, you can create a compelling story and really paint the picture for them that builds the desire for your product. Again, I haven't said anything really about the product yet up until this point, right? It's like 2 hours in. I haven't said anything about the product because here's the thing, right? Because I have to stop this presentation. I have to get another slide and where I show you how to do the Facebook stuff. But here's the thing, and I'll cut off this presentation here at that, here's the deal. The goal of marketing is supposed to make sales superfluous. Right, this is a quote from a famous business professor at Harvard. He said, the goal of marketing is to make sales superfluous. So you're supposed to be spending 80% of your time understanding the market and 20% of your time selling. So think about it like from the stock market perspective. Does Warren Buffett spend most of his time actually buying stock, or does he spend most of his time reading annual reports? If you do a quick Google search, he says, I read 8 hours a day and I only make about 4 purchases a year. Now he's going to buy $1 billion worth of Coca-Cola or $1 billion worth of NetJets, but he says, I buy 4 things a year. I read 8 hours a day. That's the same thing with here. That's the same thing here. You should be listening to your market 80% of the time, and you should only be writing ads 20% of the time. You should only be writing promotions 20% of the time. Most of the time, you should be reading books that they're reading the magazines that they're reading their complaints, their surveys. Because once you have all that stuff, I can write a promotion in a week if I have all the material I need. Okay? So this concludes part 1 of the presentation, right? I'm going to pause this for 1 quick second. I'm going to get the Facebook, because after this, right, I think this is the last slide. So what we got to do now for this case study is just go over the last 2 parts of this process, which is writing the ad and putting the ad on Facebook. Okay, so we're back. Now, before I continue, I want to make this clear distinction that there's a difference between a copywriter and a media buyer. So if you work with us on a one-on-one basis, if you work with our agency, what every client gets is 2 people on their account. 2 people, and I'll tell you why. One person, the copywriter, their job is to talk to the client, interview the client, and get all the information that we need, all that technical jargon that nobody really understands or cares about. And that way we can turn that into a persuasive message, right? That's the job of the copywriter. The job of the copywriter is to get everything out the client's head, right? To read all the research that we just went over and to come up with a long, comprehensive, cohesive, persuasive message. Now, the media buyer, on the other hand, his job is to take that from the copywriter, upload everything that he needs to on Facebook. His job is to create the the funnels and the ClickFunnels account, but his job is to manage the money, right? So the copywriter creates the message, the media buyer manages the money. Now, the media buyer should know how to write copy, and the copywriter should know about how to media buy. But those are two distinct roles, okay? So I just want to make that clear as we start going into how to, write the ads and how to upload them on Facebook, that those are two different skill sets, right? And that's why we have two people on the account always, right? Because the person managing the money is more technical, nerdy type of guy, and the person who is writing the copy is a little bit more creative, left brain, right brain going on there, right? So let's dive into it. So let's go into step number 5, which is writing the ad, right? So now we're starting to get into a little bit of the writing part of it. Now, before we actually write something that we're going to use, what I'm a big fan of is, and this is just focusing on one reader at a time, which we covered, but I'm a big fan of pre-writing. Now, when I was in college, when I was in high school, one of the things I always hated was outlines, right? I hated outlines. I felt like it was the teacher just, torturing us, right? Making us do work that wasn't necessary. However, as I've grown and as I, manage my own company, manage the companies of others, at least from a marketing perspective, I realize how important an outline is. And for two reasons. Number one, it helps me manage my junior copywriters, right? If I'm managing a team of copywriters, outlining everything and creating an outlining process helps me understand how they've came to the conclusions that they came to. So from a managing operation standpoint, outlining and pre-writing is important, but also for me, it helps. It helps me organize my thoughts. It helps me get things on paper. It helps me, and this is the most important thing, it helps me empathize with the reader, with the prospective patient. Because at this point, all we have is a workbook full of data, and we have product research. Okay, so at this point, and this is what I usually feel during every campaign that I manage, especially campaigns that I am actively involved in myself, I feel overwhelmed, right? Because there's so many people you can talk to. There's so many wonderful features about the product or the protocol, the process. It's like, which direction do you go? So pre-writing helps you focus in on, like this slide said before, it helps you focus in on one reader, right? It helps you focus in on one reader. So let me just pull something over to this screen really quickly, and I want to show you something. I want to show you some of the tools that we use internally with our agency to kind of help us focus in. So this is, this is a tool called the Story Brand script, right? The brand script is, a good book called the My Story Brand from Donald Miller. So shouts out and credits to him. However, this is definitely a tool that we use internally, and we're coming up with something a little bit different. But this is a tool that you can just log in right now, mystorybrand.com, create for yourself, and start using. Now, what this helps us do internally is it helps us create a character, right? It helps us create a one reader, a character that we're going to speak to. Because when we have a workbook, right, and let me just bring this so we can refresh our memory. When we have a workbook like this that literally has a whole bunch of negative emotions, right? Because at this point, we're just going through Quora, we're going through Reddit, we're going through these forums, and we just have a workbook full of negative emotions. What we want to do is turn that into a character. We want to turn that into a person, a real life person who has a desire, right? They want or need something, and they have villains. They have external, internal, and philosophical problems, right? Now, the reason why I like this is because as I've gotten better and I've grown as a copywriter, I've started studying screenwriting, right? Storytelling. And every Hollywood movie, and we all know how much Hollywood makes, every Hollywood movie follows this type of structure, right? Every Hollywood movie has a character who wants or needs something. They have some type of external, internal, philosophical problem, right? And philosophical meaning society, right? So there's movies like Django, slavery, right? Racial tension. That's what I mean by philosophical, right? What's going on in society. And then usually they meet a guide, right? Usually they meet a guide that gives them, guidance, right? One of my favorite shows is Prison Break, right? And Michael Scofield in season 1, he his guide, in a sense, quote unquote, he was the doctor, right? Because when he broke out of the prison, the doctor left the door open for him, right? And helped him and his brother escape. So, and for the most part in our business, and this is something that I've always told the clients, we want to be the guy, right? We're not the character, right? The prospect is always the character. The prospect has specific problems. We are the guide that gives them some type of plan, right? We're the guide that gives them a plan. And our plan, and this is for you watching, our plan is our protocol. And this is why I always stress, have a process. You have to have a process. You have to have a protocol. If you're a functional medicine practitioner watching this, if you want to serve people with neuropathy or people with IBS or people with chronic fatigue or thyroid, you have to have a step-by-step plan, a process that gets them from A to B. Or else they're not going to engage with their marketing. And worse, if they do engage with your marketing and they sit down opposite of you in the sales situation, they're not going to buy because, number one, they don't believe that you can get them the result because they've tried with conventional medicine. And number two, they're going to go to the husband and get shot down because the husband's not going to believe it, right? He's not going to know where the money's going. So this right here, this process helps us come up with a story that we want to tell, because that is the greatest marketing, right? And I know story is kind of a buzzword now, but all story means, and this author, Emmanuel Oberg, said it best in this book. He said story is nothing more than a problem-solving process. That's all a story is, right? Because I know it gets all mythical, and I don't want to get mythical on you. All a story is a problem-solving process. So as we go through this workbook, we come up with different characters who want stuff, right? So the one character, right? And this is tied in with the buckets. One character might be a woman who wants to spend more time with her children, her grandchildren, but can't do that because she has a problem with neuropathy, right? She can't drive, right? So you understand how we start coming up with this problem-solving process, and then we become the guide, right? Your authority is that you've been a functional medicine practitioner for X amount of time. You empathize with them, saying some of the stuff that we've covered. Hey, I understand how frustrating it could be when you go to Amazon and you buy this and it doesn't work, blah, 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 blah. And then you give them your plan, your process, your unique process. How are you going to help them? And this is really where I drill the client, because what I've realized working with functional medicine practitioners, one of the hardest things you'll have to do is organize what the hell you do, from a marketing perspective and from a scale perspective. Because if you have goals and ambitions to opening up more practices, hiring associates under you, well, guess what? You're going to need this anyway. So this is what we do. Okay, so let me just move this off the screen. Cool. So that is what we do, right? And we have another, exercise here called the 67 questions, where we kind of ask, what are all the objections, right? What are the sacred cows? So we're doing a lot of, and let me just tie this back here. We're doing a lot of thinking, okay? We're doing a lot of thinking. And this is just some of the questions that we have, but there's 67 of them. Now, one of the best quotes I've ever heard, right? One of the best quotes I've ever heard from a writer was that you should feel like shit before you write anything, right? Here's some more questions that we that we answer, right? What are the sacred cows that they believe? Because we want to bring those up in our ads. That way, we can address those. But moving on. The best quote I ever heard about writing is that you should feel like shit before you write anything, right? You should feel like shit. And, pardon my French, but that is the best. That's how you know you're connecting with somebody. Or that's how you know you have the ability to connect with somebody, right? Just think about it. If somebody's going through something, if you're going through something in your life, you would rather speak to somebody who can empathize with your situation, somebody who's preferably have gone through it, right? Because they can give you the best advice. Now, these questions help us empathize with the prospect, even though, for the most part, none of our copywriters have had those issues, right? So this is just this is what we call going the distance, right? This is what we call going the distance. This is how we're able to step in any market, any niche, any industry, and write high converting copy because we do the extra work, okay? So now that you focus on your one reader, right? Now that you got your story brand script, right? And guess what? In our agency, as we're starting to grow, we're starting to create a lot of these for clients, right? So what clients are starting to do now is they're starting to record their phone calls and their consultations, and then we create a story for each consultation they have, right? So they give me 10 consults in a month, we have 10 scripts, right? Story brand scripts. And guess what? Now we can write 10 different ads, and now we're becoming prolific, okay? So thesis, right? The main point of this is once we focus on one reader, we want to build a character, a story, right, of that reader so it's easy for us to write. And I gave you some tools on how to do that. Now, the next thing is, and as you remember a couple minutes ago, we spoke about doing the features, the benefits for the specific buckets that we came up with. Now it's time to create the USP, right? Now, the USP is taking the biggest benefit for a specific prospect and putting it into a way that is enticing for them, right? So we all know USP stands for unique selling point, right? And we discussed that a unique selling point to everybody is going to be different, right? What's a USP to me for a particular product is going to be different for you, right? So you might have a selling point that is appealing will be different for you and I, right? We can have the same iPhone, and I got it for the my girlfriend might get it for the camera, and I might get it for the Google Sheet apps. So the USP is different for my girlfriend and for me. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. So the way we phrase the USP, right? And by now, if you're following along, like I suggest that you do, take out your buckets and take out the features, the benefits for the buckets, and start putting it in this frame, in this order, right? Start crafting your USP in this order. First, you need a power phrase. You need a prime benefit. And then you need an enabler phrase. So what do I mean by that, right? So here's an example of a USP for one of the ads that I wrote. And we're going to get into how to write the ads in a little bit. But before we write the ads, we need to know where we're going, right? We need to know the thesis of the ad. Now, the USP gives us kind of the thesis, if you will, the point of it, or where we're leading the prospect to. So let's read it. Over the past 20 years, I've developed the EOS protocol, which is the only process scientifically proven to eliminate peripheral neuropathy. Right? So that is a power phrase, right? The power phrase is the only process, right? It is making it exclusive, right? It's making it exclusive to you, right? It can't be unique if everybody has it, right? If every phone on the planet Earth has a touchscreen, that is not a unique selling point. Right? So let's move on. Unlike the expensive supplements, greasy rubbing oils, and topical foot creams that you'll find all over Amazon, our protocol is a proven process that actually works. Our treatment is specifically designed to oxygenate your peripheral nerves, right? That's a prime benefit, right? What is the prime benefit of your product, of your protocol, of your process, right? We want to include that. So the prospect knows what the hell they're going to get, right? If they schedule a consult, if they come on the webinar, what are they going to get, right? They know that they're going to learn about a specific process designed to oxygenate the peripheral neuropathies, leading to rejuvenated nerve function and peripheral neuropathy reversal, right? And that is the enabler phrase. What does this allow them to do, right? So a power phrase is exclusive, right? The only, right? The best, those type of wording. The prime benefit, right? What is the benefit of your protocol? What does it allow them to do? And then the enabler phase, which is what can the prospect do now because of the benefit they just got, right? Because of what you just gave them, what can they do now? Can they spend more time with their kids? Can they spend, can they finally walk on their feet and have balance? Can they sleep at night in peace, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can go, and that's why we had to do the research, because unless we're doing the research, we're just guessing, okay? So we have our USP, right? We have our one reader. Let's just recap. We have our one reader, right? We did all the story branch scripts. We did all of the 67 questions. We create a USP for each script that we create, right? So each one reader that we have, we give them a specific USP that we know they would be interested in. And now, right, so again, the diabetes bucket is going to have a different USP than the chemotherapy, which is going to have different than the pinched nerve, alcohol abuse. Now, we have to come up with the offer. So in copywriting, direct response copywriting that we do here, the saying goes, the number one important thing is the audience, right? Who you're speaking to, your one reader is the most important thing, right? The list, the audience. It all starts with that. Then the second thing is the offer, right? What are you offering that audience? And then the last thing is the copy. So as much as I pride myself on being a decent copywriter, competent copywriter, as much as I pride myself and I love copy, the reality is it's the last of the three, right? The first thing is the audience, because if you have a wonderful offer, but you're targeting the wrong audience, well, they're not going to buy it, no matter how good it is, because they don't see the value in it because they're not in the market, right? So first is getting the market, the audience right. Then it's giving that audience a offer that is superior, irresistible, a no-brainer. And then once you do those two things, now the copywriting becomes important. But unless you have those two things lined up, whatever you say does not matter, right? Whatever you say does not matter. So coming up with the offer, how do we do that, right? And this is a good saying. The product is mightier than the pen. The product is mightier than the pen. And when it comes to coming up with an offer, there's a lot of ways you can manipulate it. So I'm going to go through an exercise right now just so I can show you the possibilities. And I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, but I want to drive home how you can come up with an offer for your own practice. Okay? So let's go through it, right? So imagine you have a Ferrari, right? Imagine you're at a Ferrari dealership and the salesperson says, hey, would you buy this Ferrari for $1,000? Now, it won't take a good sale. This person does not have to be a good salesperson, right, to make that sale. If someone came up to you saying, hey, would you buy this Ferrari, brand new Ferrari, for $1,000? They can literally not even speak English, and they will make that sale, right? So price is one way to manipulate the offer, right? Price is one way to handle the offer. But let's take it a step further, right? Because this is where most people think. Okay, most people think the offer is just the product and the price. But let's go further. So refund policies, right? By the way, and this is me selling to you. By the way, Mr. Prospect, not only can you have this Ferrari for $1,000, but you can return the car whenever you don't want it anymore over the course of your life. Right? So whenever you don't want this car anymore, you can just go back, return it, and I'll give you your $1,000. Did we just make the offer more enticing? Yes. Right? So this is all part of your offer. I want you to understand, and the reason why we're going to go through this exercise is because I want you to understand that your offer is more than your price. Your offer is more than your product, right? Those are part of the offer, but your offer is so many more things. So let's continue, right? Premiums. Hey, not only do you have this Ferrari for $1,000 that you can return at any time, how about we also throw in free oil changes for life and free tire rotations for as long as you have the car? Woo, right? Does not have to be a good salesperson to have a good offer. And by the way, I'll also allow you to change the color whenever you want, right? So if somebody says, hey, I like your Ferrari, but I don't like the color red. Hey, you can come back and you'll get a green one. No extra cost. Whoa, right? Whoa. So let's continue. Scarcity. By the way, I only have, 2 more Ferraris that I'm doing this deal on. So once they're gone, they're gone. Okay. I'm listening, right? Ease of understanding, right? And guess what? You don't even have to come to the dealership to get the Ferrari. I'll bring it to you. I'll bring the Ferrari right to you, right to your front door, right? Let's continue. And when you get it, it'll be in a bow and ribbon, and we're gonna let off cannons so all your neighbors know that you have a Ferrari. Whoa, right? Let's continue, right? This is delivery, right? User friendliness, and when I get there, I'm gonna show you exactly what buttons to press to open up the hood, open up the trunk, how to, open up the doors automatically. I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to use the car, right? Making it user friendly. And then urgency. Hey, guess what? By the way, you only have the midnight to tell me yes or no, right? Because if you don't give me my midnight, I'm going to move on to the next person. These are all things that we can do to manipulate the offer. These 9 things, right? This is part of your offer, right? So as you're crafting an offer for your audience, keep these things in mind, right? Yes, price. Price does affect scale to some point, right? The more you raise the price, the less of a ceiling you have typically. But what's the refund policy, right? What other bonuses are they getting with their purchase? Can you guarantee some type of result? And if they don't get it, what can they do? Right? Do they get an extra year or something? Do they get an extra appointment? Right? Scarcity. Why should they be, alert that this might run out? Right? How can you make that evident to them? How can you make it easy for them to try? Right? How can you deliver them a good user experience? How can you make things user friendly? And of course, there better be some urgencies, right? So that is the ultimate offer as you're starting to create it. What we call the SIN offer. SIN, S-I-N, right? Superior, irresistible, no-brainer offer. Those are the components that go into it. Now, let's start going into the Facebook. And as we start going over what we specifically did for this, client, the problem with choosing Facebook to promote your services, unlike Google or YouTube, which is owned by Google, is that it doesn't work by keywords, right? It works by interest targeting. And the problem with that is that there's no button in Facebook that tells you, hey, this person has neuropathy, or hey, this person has this chronic illness, or hey, anything like that. So we have to be creative with our targeting. Now, for this particular client, right, there was no pixels placed on his website, right? So some functional medicine practitioners I take on have a website. They have specific key pages on the website about certain health illnesses or health diseases or health disorders. And I can target people who go to that page. So for example, if you go to johndoe.com/digestive issues, I know the person who's visiting that page probably has digestive issues. Right? So it's easy for me to target those people and get buyers and leads from that because I already know what they're interested in. But this client didn't have that, right? So we didn't have that luxury. We didn't have a luxury of having an email list of previous patients suffering from neuropathy who didn't convert, right? Because those are people who know, like, and trust the doctor, but just probably wasn't ready at that particular time. We weren't given that. And that left us really with nobody to target besides cold interests, okay? So here's what we decided to do, right? And what most marketers would have done in our situation is just went broad, right? And we already discussed how that is not the option, right? We don't want to just say, right, epilepsy is the most common serious neurological condition affecting more than 500,000 people in the UK, right? What? Right, and just think about the story brand script that we went over. Based off this ad, who is the character? I'm not sure. Right, I'm not sure who the character is in this ad. I'm not sure what this character wants. I'm not sure the problem that they have, because there is no character. Like, literally. I don't know who they're speaking. This looks like a Wikipedia entry, right? Epilepsy is the most common serious neurological condition affecting more than half people in the UK. This is why UCB is collaborating with Epilepsy Society to address this problem. Learn more here. Okay, great. So, right, let's just go over, and this is how you should audit your ad. Who is the character and what do they want? There is no character, and the character doesn't want anything because they don't exist, right? Who's the villain in this story? Well, I guess this is epilepsy, but we already know that, right? So there is no real villain, right? This person's not coming at the conventional doctors. This person's not coming at the food industry, coming at insurance. They created no villain. There's no story. There's no suspense. There's no drama here, right? And then where's the guide, right? The guide is them and the Epilepsy Society. But what are they doing, right? They're not empathizing with me. Why should I care about these two things? Is it just because they have the name Epilepsy Society I should care? Maybe. And what's the process? Right? What's the process? Right? They're assuming that I'm going to click that link to find out, but I want to know. Tease me a little bit here, right? So this is definitely not cutting it. This, I feel sorry for the person who has to pay for this. So let's continue, right? So what we did was, first we decided, let's come up with a way that we have to buy data. Now you're going to hear me, and hopefully you love this case study. Hopefully you follow some of the great stuff that we're going to get ready to launch here for the remainder of the year. Like, we're going to go heavy with the marketing, heavy with just educating the market. And one thing you're going to hear me say over and over again is that you want to maximize learning before you want to maximize earning, right? You want to maximize learning before you maximize earning. So this client did not put us in a position to have a quick win, right? Because there was no pixels, there was no lists, and that's fine. So what we decided to do was like, hey, okay, great. How can we buy the most data, right? How can we learn the most quickly to set us up for long-term success? So what we did was we took a page out of Jeff Bezos' book, right? And this is what Jeff Bezos said in one interview with Bloomberg. He said, we offer people all you can eat. And this is him speaking about Amazon Prime, right? He said, we offered people all you can eat buffet, which was fast, free shipping, so that the heavy eaters can gather, right? Because the person interviewing him asked, hey, when you came up with Amazon Prime, I think it was like free, maybe for the initial offering. He said, why did you do it for free or for low cost? He was like, hey, man, when you open up an all you can eat buffet, what happens? The heavy eaters come. That's why we did Amazon Prime for free. That's why we did Amazon Prime for such a low cost in the beginning. And it's not only Jeff Bezos, who's the richest person in the world. It was who else pioneered the giveaway, right, strategy? Well, let's go to another person who was formerly the richest person in the world, Sam Walton, right? This is what we call the mousetrap principle, but this has happened way before us, right? So we have Jeff Bezos, who's the richest person in the world currently, and then we have Sam Walton, right? Sam Walton, if you read his biography, Made in America, pioneered the giveaway, right? He pioneered giving out free samples so people can come and then buy, the family size pack of meat or whatever, right? So Jeff Bezos was somebody who gave away Amazon Prime free at first. And Sam Walton, who was so rich that 3 of his kids are on the top 20 richest people in the world, pioneered the free giveaway. So, hey, we're like, hey, let's take a page out their book so we can get the data that we can use forever. Okay? Again, Oprah, that's not even mentioning Oprah and all the giveaways she did. So there's something in this strategy that it works for the top players. And again, Bill Gates, I mean, Internet Explorer, free. So we like to follow the freemium model. Okay, especially if the client's not coming to us with any type of data. This is the quickest way for us to build assets, right? Build assets. You always want to build assets. So if you do a free giveaway like we're about to explain to you right now, you're giving your business assets, right? You're building the value of your business. So this is what we did, right? We decided to go with a free dinner at first, right? Free dinner. We're going to limit it to 20 people. And this was an idea that the client got from his mentor, Dr. Barlow. If you're familiar with Dr. Barlow, he does like a free dinner every like Tuesday. Does a lot of TV commercials and ads, getting people to the dinner, and then he converts them on an offer to his office, and then he's doing very well because he could pay for TV, right? So you must be doing very well to be doing that. So we're like, hey, okay, great. We believe in the free giveaway concept. Jeff Bezos, the Walmart family, made 2 of the richest people in the world at their respective points in history. We have a mentor in the industry killing it, who's doing free giveaways and free dinners. So we decided to do that at first. Now, the thinking was simple, right? The thinking was simple. If we get the free dinner, here's what's going to happen, right? Yeah, of course, they'll have to pay for the food. The client will have to pay for the food. But number one, he should get enough people into the office to break even or do a little bit better. But guess what? More strategically, as a marketer, I now have a list of people who's interested in the dinner, meaning they have what? They have peripheral neuropathy. Now, what I can do on the back end of Facebook is I can take that list and I can target them for the rest of their lives with neuropathy offers. That's how they call that a gambit in chess, right? If you're a chess player, they call that a gambit, right? You sacrifice your pawn to get their queen, right? You put your pawn right there, the queen gives it, and you get the queen. That's what we call a gambit, right? Because now I have a list of people with neuropathy in the 20-mile radius, and we got them. Mousetrap, right? So let's go into how we write the ads, right? Now, how we write the ads, there's a couple copywriting frameworks that we love to use. There's about a lot of copywriting frameworks, like anywhere from like 70. Like, there's so much. And let me take a step back. Persuasion is nothing but structure, right? All persuasion is the order in which you say something, right? My mom used to always say, it's not what you said, it's how you said it, right? And that really is the basis of persuasion and true mastery, right? It's me wanting to get a message across, but saying in a way, right, that inspires and motivates the prospect to act in the way we want to act. So some of the copywriting frameworks that we use here are ADA, PAS, and then PPPP, right? PPPP, right? So ADA means attention, interest, desire, action. PAS means problem, agitation, solution. And then PPPP means problem, promise, proof, proposal. Now, what you'll notice here is each one of these copywriting frameworks has what we want at the bottom, right? So we don't start with, hey, buy our stuff, or hey, come to this dinner. No, we work our way to that, right? So in ADA, first we get their interest, and we pique some interest. We generate or channel the desire into our product. For problem, agitation, solution, we talk about a problem, we agitate it, and then we focus that attention on our solution. And then the same thing for PPPP, where we start with a problem, we promise them a solution, we show them proof, whether it's testimonials or whatever, and then we show them our proposal, meaning our solution or our product. Now, this is something I want you to pay attention to. look at these copywriting frameworks and take note that what we want to say is not what we're leading with ever, for the most part. Now, there's times where we just get straight to the point, and we do that on retargeting campaigns, and I'll speak about that a little bit later. But when we're going to cold traffic, right, people who don't like, who don't know, who don't like, who don't trust you, people who don't know you from a can of paint, we don't lead with what we want. We lead with what they want, or what interests them, or what would get their attention, right? This is how you break through the noise, right? So the USP that we worked on goes at the bottom. So now you see why we created that first, because now I know where I want to go with the conversation. So let's go forward, right? So here's an ad that we wrote that performed pretty well. And you can see some of the, you can just see the structure here. Now, I wrote about 50 or 70 ads for this client. So I'm not going to show you all of that because that would not be fair to him. But I picked this ad just to illustrate to you the structure, right? So you can see at the problem part is we started with the problem, right? And this is something I swiped straight from Amazon, right? It smells bad and it takes 20 minutes to work, right? This is something somebody with neuropathy said about a product on Amazon. So they call this the battlefield technique. You go straight to the action, right? You've ever seen Saving Private Ryan? The movie starts with bombs going off. You don't know who Private Ryan is. You don't know what the hell the story is about. You just know there's bombs going on, right? That's called the battlefield technique. We want to get right to the point, but not to the point of buy my stuff, but right to the point of this is what you're going through and I know, right? Because, hey, look, they're scrolling. We got to get them to stop, right? And what's going to get them to stop is getting right to the point of their problem, right? Getting to the point of what they're going through and empathizing with that, right? Now we agitate it, right? And in this, this example, I said, hey, you see, most of my patients come into my office thinking that the only way to solve their peripheral neuropathy is by doing intense workouts, making radical changes to their diet, or taking every supplement that they can find on Amazon. Now, remember the 67 questions that I showed you about the sacred cows of the industry? This is how doing your homework results in results, right? This is how doing your homework results in results. Because we're not doing that for fun, right? We're doing that because we want to get our thoughts in one place so we can write ads, structure them, and get people to buy in. Right, and then at the bottom you can see the solution, right, which is, January 29th, coming to this free dinner. So this is how we take all of that research and we structure an ad, right? And I could get into some of the, if you read the second line, but would I buy again? Heck yeah, I would, because anything beats taking another pill, right? So, and this is like script writing. I don't want to get too technical into the copywriting aspect of it, but dialogue is always a good thing, right? Making it a conversation, even if I'm just talking to myself. But I understand the psychology of the prospect, so I can go ahead and I can have some internal dialogue, right? Again, back to the homework that we did, right? I'm able to have internal dialogue because I understand the internal issues that they're having. You see? So this is, just one of the many examples of the ads that I wrote for this client. And let's get into how we're going to structure it on Facebook. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you exactly what the hell, I'm going to show you the results, but I can't really show you exactly everything that I did with the targeting because contractually that's what the client is paying for. So, I'll be as transparent as possible, but I can't give you the whole kit and caboodle, right? But if you listen to this case study, you should be able to do it by yourself, bro, honestly. But what I will give you is the outline of what we look at when we're structured in Facebook, right? So we already spoke about the offer, the campaign structure. So this is what I'll say about the campaign structure. Usually there's 3 different categories of ads that we run. The first one is we go to cold traffic, right? That's called our prospecting campaign, right? Our prospecting campaign. Our second category is our retargeting campaign, meaning we're targeting people who have engaged with our ads but have not bought. And then we have our third category, which is lookalike, right? So what Facebook does is give us the ability to create, because Facebook is a machine. So what we can tell Facebook is, hey, here's an email list of 1,000 people. Find us more people on Facebook in a 20-mile radius who are similar to these people. And if you understand what the heck I just said, you understand that is a tremendous opportunity. We give Facebook a list of names, emails, phone numbers, right? And of course, Facebook knows who these people are. They have the data on them. And then we say, hey, Facebook, find me another 1,000 people who look just like them. Find me another, group of people who look like the people who just purchased. And now you can see how you can start leveraging social media to get more sales. Right? And that kind of just, what I just said kind of just covers everything, right? So coolio. So awesome, right? So this is just some extra notes. Let me see if I can grab a little resource for you to make this a little bit, 1 second. All right, cool. So I grabbed this resource for you just to make it a little bit easier for you to understand what I was talking about. So what I was saying before about the prospecting campaign, about the lookalike campaign, about the retargeting campaign, that's at the campaign level, right? So we have literally at minimum 3 campaigns always for every single client that we are running. Now, within each campaign, you can create ad sets. Now, this is where you set your budget, at least for right now, and this is where you do all your targeting, right? So for example, for a prospecting campaign, meaning we're going to cold traffic, I might target different audiences, so I'm going to create different ad sets within the prospecting campaign, okay? So I'm not going to use neuropathy, but let's just say I wanted to sell pencils, right? I would create a prospecting campaign, and I would target, and let's just say I wanted to sell pencils to teachers. I would target maybe everybody who went to, everybody on Facebook who identifies as a teacher. I might then make another ad set and target everybody who works for the New York State, Department of Education. Then I might make another ad set that targets everybody who's in the teacher association, right? Because I don't know which audience is going to work for my prospecting campaign, right? And then I take all of my ads and I put them in each ad set to see, okay, does this ad work for the teacher association? Does this ad work for people who are identified as teachers? Does this ad work for everybody who works for the New York State Department of Education, right? So that's how I kind of structure out a campaign, no matter who the client is. Prospecting campaign, meaning we're going to go to cold audiences, right? People who don't know, like, and trust us. And then we're going to create a whole bunch of ad sets and test the same ad in different ad sets. Because guess what? What do we say? Audience, offer, copy. Audience, offer, and copy. Audience, offer, and copy. So we can have stellar offer and copy, but unless the audience is right, it doesn't matter. Right? So we write one ad and we test a whole bunch of different audiences. And then once we know an audience works, we just test that audience with copy after copy after copy after copy, if that makes sense. Okay, I hope it does. So let's get back to the presentation here and begin to wrap up. Okay, so that's what we did. So let's get into some of the results, right? So this is Dr. Montanaro and us talking down, right? So, I didn't even get to upload all the ads for this particular campaign. And in 30 minutes, she told me to shut it down, right? And you can see him saying there, right? My only concern is letting them run to tomorrow and having to call back 200 people, right? Which is, a good problem to have, right? So this is some of the results we got from the free dinner campaign. As you can see, I think we ended up getting like 41 or 47 leads, and you can see the cost per lead right there on the right-hand column. And as we go forward, what Dr. Montanaro and I discussed was like, hey, listen, man, we were going to go to this free dinner thing. We're going to do it every month. But if it's working that well, right, if we're getting 41 leads at like $5 a pop and people showing up to the dinner, well, hey, let's run into our office. Now, of course, it's not as enticing as an offer because, hey, who wouldn't want a free dinner, right? Who would not want to go to a free dinner and learn about neuropathy, something that they've been dealing with for years? That's a great offer. So the offer is a little bit less sexy, but guess what? It's just as effective because when we ran the office campaign, when we did the free dinner campaign, we had 27 leads because he didn't want to do a dinner more than 30 people. For the office campaign, we had 47 leads. Okay, so you can see the cost per result went a little bit up because the offer wasn't as attractive. But guess what? $12, $4, $6. right? Even $13, $12, that's not bad, right? How life-changing would it be if you knew you had a campaign that if you turned it on would get you leads at $6 a pop, at $4 a pop? Would that be life-changing if you can generate leads on demand? Now, caveat, you have to be able to sell, right? You have to have a process in place to handle this. And unfortunately, some clients don't, right? You know, some relationships end like that, right? Where I do my part, the client doesn't have the processes in place because they're not. And here's the thing with my agency, we offer a lot of different packages, right? Our fees are anywhere from, you know, a few $1,000s all the way up to $10,000 a month, right? Where we handle the sales and all that stuff for you. Of course, not everybody can do $10,000 a month. So I'm like, hey, listen, that's fine. Just have your sales in place. And relationships end like that because they're like, hey, listen, look, you send all these leads, but it's not working. I'm like, okay, cool, Mr. Client. When did you call him back? Well, we got the lead on Monday. We called him back on Thursday. Oh, that's not what we agreed on, right? And now it's like, oh, Andrew, you're not doing your part, but Mr. Client, you're not doing your part. And then we're like, hey, let's just decide to part ways, right? So you have to be able to have a process, and that's a whole different conversation about sales and talking to patients and things like that. But how much different would your practice be if you can literally press a button and you can generate leads for $4.21 a pop right to your office? Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you like this case study or if you don't, right? Because this isn't your typical Upwork. Hey, I'm gonna hire you. I'm gonna have an ad up tomorrow saying buy my stuff and we're good, right? This is not that, right? This is not that. That's not what we do. If that's what you want, we're probably not the company for you. But if you want something that works, if you want to do it right, not only get it done, but get it done right. This is our process. This is the way we recommend you do it. This is the way we'll do it for you if that's what you want. This is the way it should be done. Most of the work should be in the research phase. And that's going to give you all the confidence you need to write your promotions with confidence. And here's the best part about this. Because what did I say to you about maximizing learning before you maximize earning? Well, when we did that free dinner, we got a big list of people who were interested that couldn't come, right? Guess what? We threw that into Facebook, and some of these leads were from people who engaged with our free dinner free dinner offer, right? Then we told Facebook, hey, listen, go get us more people who look like these group of people. And now the client has an asset that he can use forever, right? Not only does he have the ads that he can use forever, but he has the pixel and he has the list of people in his 20-mile radius that have a specific illness, a specific disease that he can just target with offer after offer, right? And of course, disclaimer, please, if you're watching this, help your patients. This is some powerful stuff. So please have the ability to help your patients, okay? Don't be manipulating people into your office, selling them some snake oil, okay? So this is it. This is the case study, man. This is end-to-end our process, what we do. And if you follow this, what you can do to get anywhere from 10 to 30 or more new patients a month. And, I'm working with another client of mine where we're doing some crazy stuff. Like we're recording testimonials. We're using the testimonials as ads. And oh my goodness, the engagement that we're getting is like this. This is a great case study, and we're just going to step it up, right? As we grow and we get more resources, we're able to experiment and really bring to you what works. So I hope you love this case study. There's more coming soon. There's going to be a lot coming soon because Buddy, my client, Buddy Tijinski out of Pennsylvania, we're doing 2 case studies a month. So we're going to have a behemoth of data and tests and ideas to bring to you that you can implement in your own practice. So I'm going to put a button below. It's going to be a link to my schedule, my calendar. If, like I said, our fees are our fees, right? But if you're interested in getting this done, right? If I gave you the end-to-end process, you could take it, you could leave it. But if you understand if this is something that's appealing to you, if this is something you want to start doing for your practice, but you'd rather skip going to Upwork, hiring a team, managing a team, right? Dealing with flakiness, dealing with people not being on time, not getting you delivered when you want. If you want to skip that whole headache of managing people, well, we'll do that for you. So I'll put a link below to my calendar. Schedule a consult if this is something that you want for your practice, man. And whether or not you do that, I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck, and I'll see you on the next case study. Talk soon. Bye-bye.